afternoon, everyone, and welcome to BFSICM meeting. Let me introduce our convener, Anupam Petkar. He has more than 20 years of experience, and he is presently working as a deputy CFO for the reinsurance company. Now, with this, I hand over to Anupam to introduce our speakers and set the agenda for the day.
Thank you. So we have 3 meetings today. We'll start with a very interesting topic, and which is very keen to dear to us all, and it's a great honor to introduce Mr. Harsh. And he doesn't need introduction. Who regularly reads business standard, is well aware of credentials and everything. So I'll request you, sir, to start.
Thanks, Anupam. The way you started it, I thought you were going to do the kind of introduction that I had once seen. This gentleman doesn't need any introduction, and then he missed the name. Okay. So Anil, you don't have to say everything you know about me. Because Anil and me go back 45 years. Okay.
Well, Harsh has been here before also.
Yeah.
And comes here regularly, and he has a vast experience in the guidance is provided to people who are saving, investing, and generating wealth. And that is his profession also. Besides that, he is a very well-known figure in this industry of personal investment guidance. Now, you must have read a lot about him on newspapers also. He writes articles regularly and very meaningful one. And he has been speaking efforts for his contribution to the area of work. You will be able to know more about him once you hear and hear.
इन साहब को ये मीटिंग थोड़ा अटेंड करना है दूसरे स्टडी हम लोग
it's on just let him sit.
Okay.
Yeah, let the meeting on.
He has started his career with ICICI Bank. After giving up the day-to-day job, he has been an entrepreneur. I think this is a brief introduction. I can give more you come to know once we.
So this is a part of a series on financial planning, investment advisory, and there is a huge number of topics which are being covered on a continuous basis for a number of years. And last year we had a number of topics, and every time based on the interest of the participants, new topic are covered and we do a deep dive into it. So today some topic has been covered. Harsh will do it. Again, this is a part of series. Harsh would also cover another topic Anil had suggested especially for him, and we can have a series of maybe 2-3 short but deep dive sessions on it. Yeah, and anybody has any suggestion also, you can always give it to Anupam or Archana. So those things can be scheduled. Yeah, Harsh.
Okay, so good. Just before I start, okay, I want to talk about this profession that I'm in, and that is the investment advisory profession. It's a licensed profession, just like, I'm sure, how many practicing chartered accountants in the room? Not everybody is practicing. In fact, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 practicing chartered accountants. I think everybody probably is a chartered accountant, including myself.
70% are industry members in the roundtable.
So I think this is one profession, and when somebody asked me what I do, and I'm going to take 2 minutes, even at the risk of sort of eating into the content of this, as Anil was saying, I've done various things in my life, right? First 2 years, in fact, I worked in a hardcore tax role in A.F. Ferguson and Company. In those days, that was the largest tax firm. Then I did 5 years in ICICI. I did leasing, structured finance, investment banking. Then, I went out with two of my colleagues and we did in those days, the word startup was not there. We did a startup. Okay, this is 1990. We ran structured finance. We did it fairly successfully, made decent amounts of money, got completely bored out of our lives. And therefore, two of us came back to ICICI, and I had the fortune, I would say, of launching ICICI's retail lending business from scratch. So ICICI's first home loan basically carries my signature. We had that huge checks that you see in all the cricket matches, etc. I've lost that check, unfortunately. I moved so many houses, I have lost that check. But my point is, till that time, I was a wholesale banker, and in that character, if I would have come, I would probably have been wearing a suit and a tie. I think in 1998, when I came back to ICICI, I started retail lending and I fell in love with retail lending. And because one of the things about retail lending, there's nothing wrong with corporate banking at all. But one of the things with retail lending is that you are dealing with actual people, their actual dreams. What you are doing, you can see that impact on people's lives. So I was there for 2 years. Again, the entrepreneurial bug hit me, and I did this time a proper venture funded startup, Apna Loan and Apna.com. ApnaPaisa.com, the second part of that, and that I exited in 2015 to start the investment advisory practice. The reason I'm giving it in some detail, I'll come to very quickly, is that I have done so many things in my life. Almost all my life I have been, even in the large organization, I was effectively running a startup, running or being part of a startup. And I love this, okay? And somebody asked me that if you were to live your life all over again, okay, which part of it would you not live, And there is nothing that I have done that I will not do again. Now knowing what I know, great. I will do every part, everything that I did, okay? Very challenging, very interesting. It created a lot of stress, especially when I was running the startup. I mean, for 6 months, we were literally living from day to day, and I had 500 employees, and 15 तारीख होते मेरी हालत खराब हो जाती थी, because मेरे तो घर में पैसे थे, मेरे पास सैलरी नहीं आएगी तो चलेगी, लेकिन 500 लोगों की EMI, उनके और लोगों का खर्चा कहाँ से आएगा? Okay, I was sort of running that. So everything that I did, I really enjoyed, and I would do it again. But if I was to pick one, among all these 7-8 things that I have done, okay, what I am doing now, investment in hands down, okay, and the one reason it wins hands down for me, and this is a clear pitch for my profession, okay, I also happen to be the past chairperson and the director on Association of Registered Investment Advisors, which is a Section 8 not-for-profit company. Personally, as an investment advisor, okay, I handle about 50 clients and 50 client families actually, and they range from pretty ordinary middle class people to some fairly well-known people from reading about them in the papers. What gives me real satisfaction as an investment advisor is the fact that based on their interactions with me, based on what I tell them, right, based on what I recommend, they are changing the way that they live their lives, okay, and that gives me a lot of satisfaction. Besides, of course, I make money from doing that. So this is one profession, very much like whatever other things that you are doing, okay? But perhaps in a corporate thing, there is no direct. Obviously, even the corporates go on and touch so many lives. But here, you're touching those lives directly, and you can see the impact of what you are doing. So that's enough pushing for the profession. Let me get on to the subject today. So home loan is something that I earned a living out of, right? Whether the startup that I ran or in ICICI, I started retail lending in my second stint. This is something that I know well. I've written I think that's the only book written in India on home loans. It's out of print now. Okay. So this is a subject very, very dear to my heart. सरफेस पे बहुत इजी लगता है, क्या है, घर का लोन लेना है, बैंक में अप्लाई करो, लोन ले लो. ओके, वी विल सी. एंड टुडे व्हाट आई एम डूइंग, दिस इज अ 1 hour sort of a session. Okay, and this will just be scratching the surface. Okay, I've done a full day workshop on home loan, a complete full day workshop, और वो भी कम पड़ता. Okay, so let's see. I hope you find it interesting. If this looks like something that has been presented to a set of students, it's because it was presented to a set of students, and I have not really taken too much trouble to change the presentation. So I think what we are going to cover, okay, are standard client problems, and these can be client problems, these can be. How many people here have a home loan in the room? Okay. Sorry. So good. I hope you take one thing from this would have been the 1 hour would have been spent well if you take at least one learning from our today's session. So we are going to talk about the various problems and questions around home loans that clients have, that borrowers have. We're going to talk about this. I mean, I suspect chartered accountants should know, but I've been very surprised by what chartered accountants don't know. Okay, so we will do a quick deep dive into EMI loans, and what are offset loans is a fancy word for a loan of the type SBI Max Gain. People have heard of SBI Max Gain?
Very, very well. I can answer any question on Max Gain.
Great.
Any question.
So then you are one better than me. I can't answer questions.
I can answer
Max
on
Gain.
SBI Max Gain and the peers also.
Okay. So good. We are going to talk of something that probably next to nuclear physics, okay, the next big complicated subject is floating rate interest rate on home loans. Okay. I think we'll try and decode this in the very short time that we have today. And a very quick word on tax implications, and in a room full of chartered accountants, right? And some of you must be tax people, okay? I will do a poll at the end to see if you knew everything that I have put there. Okay, this is trivia. The fourth one is a trivia. Other tax implications is trivia. They are not really substantive things. It is me showing off my knowledge. Okay. So why is this important? I think either you or your clients, somebody or the other would have taken a home loan. Okay. And therefore, see, this has been made for advisors. Okay. So I mean, just read the content based on that. What this helps us do, this knowledge about home loans, apart from if you have home loans yourself, apart from that, it helps you connect and converse with your clients and help them. Okay. It helps you build a connect with your clients in one more area. So this this is not the one that I meant of tax trivia. I am sure this probably every person in the room will know that every home loan is divided into principal and interest. Amount remains the same. Principal interest is divided. We'll take a quick look at it a little later. the principal paid, the principal portion of the home loan paid is allowed as a deduction, at least under the old regime. And all examples given here are under the old regime. We have completely, very conveniently not taken the new tax regime. Okay. So the principal is allowed as a deduction along with others under section 80C, 1.5 lakhs. Okay. The interest of 2.5 lakhs for self-occupied property, only for a self-occupied property. Okay. The limit of 2 lakhs applies only to a self-occupied property. That's allowed as a deduction. And obviously for a self-occupied property, it's not allowed under the new tax regime. If the loan is in a joint name, then both the individuals can take this deduction, both the 80C deduction for principal and the section 24 deduction for a self-occupied home loan property. And for the purposes of today, we are talking of self-occupied home loan property. I mean, we are not getting into the intricacies of rental and 2 properties and 3 properties and things like that. So these are some of the questions that we are going to cover. Okay. First, should I take a loan even if I have the funds to pay for the home? And this question keeps getting asked कि पैसे हैं मेरे पास फिर भी लोन लेना चाहिए क्या? Liquidity रखना है, ये करना है. We'll see what are the parameters you should use to judge that question. Second, which is actually a mirror image of the first question, is after you have taken the loan and you have got a surplus, should I use that surplus to repay the loan or should I invest that surplus somewhere else? I don't know those of you who have taken a loan whether you have ever faced that question. Have you ever faced that question?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll again look at how that question can probably be answered. Okay. So one thing in finance, unlike accounting, okay, there is no one right answer. Accounting mein normally 2 plus 2 equal to 4. Okay. Finance mein not necessarily so. The third, and that is a really big one, कि भाई मैंने जिससे लोन लिया, जिस बैंक से लिया, and there are bankers in the room, right? I don't see.
Yeah, many are.
Yeah. Okay.
Archana is a banker. Harsh
Okay. Yeah.
Harish
Yes.
is a
Yes.
banker.
Yes.
Aditya is a banker.
Okay.
Many
Yes.
bankers are.
And so I don't know whether the bankers will still be happy with me at the end of the presentation. Okay.
As long as good customers come and do profits for the bank, all bankers should be happy.
As long as good and ignorant customers
Good,
come.
they can be wise. We'll make all customers wise. Those who listen to us.
Okay. So I think this is a constant refrain. मतलब मैं ये देख रहा हूँ 2000 से, तो 23 साल हो गए. ओके. तो ये एक कांस्टेंट रिफ्रेन है कि भाई ये बैंक्स लोग ना, ओके, ये जब मैं, मतलब मेरा भाई, जुड़वा भाई जाके जब बैंक से लोन ले रहा है उसको, क्योंकि वो आज ले रहा है, मैंने कल लिया था, 1 साल 2 साल पहले लिया था, सेम घर है, बगल वाला घर ले रहा है, उसकी इनकम सेम है, जुड़वा भाई है मेरा. ओके. उसको लोन 2% कम दे रहा, मुझे 2% ज्यादा चार्ज कर रहा है. ओके. तो 2 चीज हम वी विल अंडरस्टैंड. आई टेंड टू लैप्स इन हिंदी, आई एम सॉरी. 2 चीज we will try and understand. Okay. Why do banks do it? And more importantly, how they do it. And third, obviously, how you can make sure that you or your clients are not paying that additional amount. So first, of course, we've all heard these stories, right? I mean, some really rich people, and you sometimes wonder, and I used to wonder when I read that Michael Jackson died with a debt on his estate. Okay. Or so many, I think, I don't even know all these people. Okay. There are so many rich people who died with, a lot of debt. Okay. Eventually. So hence this question, should you take a loan even if you have the funds to buy a home? And one reason that is frequently given, okay, is कि भाई tax deduction मिलता है भाई लोन पे, okay, तो let us take it, okay, tax deduction मिलता है तो क्यों नहीं लेना चाहिए, let's take it, okay. So we're going to look at that tax deduction, okay. Now tax deduction I think is something that chartered accountants understand extremely well. What does a tax deduction do? Because you are paying less tax, okay, your interest reduces, right? The cost of your interest reduces. The tax so tax deduction doesn't make anything else. It just reduces the cost of interest. You may be paying, you may have taken the loan at 9%, even if it is fully deductible, the interest, okay, the cost now reduces to 6%. You're still paying 6%. So whatever analysis you are doing, right, you have to take and you have to decide whether 6% makes sense. So let's look at a case study 1, okay, and this should be a breeze for chartered accountants. I mean, this, please remember, is devised for advisors who may not have a very good, who just have a working knowledge of tax, okay. So here is this example. The taxable income before deduction of interest is say 15 lakhs. The tax payable on that is 2,73,000 under the old regime. You can see the calculation there. I am not going to bother telling it to this room, right? 2,73,000, everybody is understood, right? So now what happens? If this interest is deductible, what have we taken? We have taken a loan of 23,251, right? 23,000, okay, this doesn't move. We've taken a loan of 23,25,581, and that's a very odd figure, and there is a reason why that odd figure has been taken, and that's been taken at 8.6%, okay. The reason that odd figure is that if you calculate 8.6% on 23,25,581, it works out to 2 lakhs. Okay, that's why that odd figure has been taken. So let's say that loan was taken on 1st of April 2023. What is the impact of tax deduction? That's what we are trying to work out. Okay, so your taxable income before the deduction was 15 lakh. Now interest payable is 2 lakhs. So your taxable income after deduction of home loan became 13 lakhs, right? Now considering the taxable income of 13 lakhs, what will be the tax payable? This is supposed to be a poll. We are not doing a poll that you answer, but I think this should be easy, right? On 15 lakhs, it was 2,73,000, including 4% cess. On 13 lakhs, how much will it be?
60,000 minus 10.
तीन आंसर है वहां पे, 2,10,600, हाँ, 2,10,600, slam dunk, absolutely correct, right? And this is the calculation, okay, for 2,10,600, okay. Now what does it mean? How much are you saving because of the tax deduction? 62,400. You just calculated that, right? So therefore, what is the interest paid net of tax? Interest tax deductible है, तो कितना डिडक्शन के बाद कितना बचा? 2 लाख था, उसमें से 62,400 का बेनिफिट मिला, तो कितना बचा?
64%.
तो कितना? 1,37,600, right? 137,600. Therefore, is the interest that you actually paid. And if you now use that 137,600 as a percentage of 23,25,581, that works out to 5.92%. Right? So what has the tax deduction done? The tax deduction has reduced your cost from 8.6% to 5.92%. Right? Everybody got that?
Yes.
So the first thing to remember is that where no such deduction is, why did it reduce from 8.6 to 5.92? Because of deduction. Because 30 plus 4, 31.2% slab. Right? अब अगर लोन 23, 25, 681 के ऊपर है, तो जो ऊपर वाला पार्ट है उस पर तो कोई एडिशनल डिडक्शन नहीं मिल रहा, तो उसका कॉस्ट हाई ही रहेगा. करेक्ट? Because no additional deduction is available. Okay. There can be non-residents who have no other taxable income in India, so they may get the deduction, but it is of no use. It has no tax impact. NRIs are allowed the same tax deduction as a resident, right? But there is no impact of that, right? And obviously, if the borrower chooses the new tax regime, okay, then again there is no benefit, so the cost remains at 8.6. All that the tax deduction does, I think the point that I am trying to make is that the only thing that the tax deduction does, okay, is it reduces the cost in the case of a self-occupied property by a maximum from 8.6 to 5.92% in this particular case, right? So now we want to look at a slightly different case study. This is just to understand this, and I think you chartered accountants will understand this very quickly. If the amount was not 23, 25, 681, but if the loan amount was 75 lakhs, everything else remains the same. Okay? So क्या impact होता है? It is still deductible. Okay? So interest amount on 75 lakhs at 8.6 is 6 lakhs 45,000. Taxable income is 15 lakhs. Deduction remains at 2 lakhs. Therefore, taxable income after deduction remains at 13 lakhs. The tax payable remains at 2,10,600. The savings remain at 62,400. Now, what is the interest paid net of tax saving? What is it before tax saving? 6,45,000. What is the tax saving? It remains at 62,400. What will be the interest paid net of tax saving? 582. That's the only figure that comes anywhere close, right? That will be around there, 7.77%, right? You can see that there. 5,82,600 as a percentage of 75 lakhs is 77.77%. So 23, 25, 681, the cost dropped from 8.6 to 5.92, right? 75 lakhs, the cost has dropped from 8.6 to 7.77. But that's not all. There is a catch in this, and that's the one that we need to be able to see. Because why are we doing this? We are creating a framework. Okay? Whether I should take a loan when I have the money, or after I have taken the loan, when I get a surplus, should I repay that or reinvest? To be able to create that framework, understanding this is important, and this is how the 7.77 has been worked out. Okay, this presentation is already there with Manoj, and he will be sharing it with everyone. Okay, on 23, 25, 581, we already know the cost is 5.92. On the balance amount, the cost remains at 8.60%. If you take a weighted average, it works out to 7.77%. Okay. What it means is that in a 75 lakh loan, the cost changes. Till 23-25 581, the cost is 5.92. Uske baad, every rupee of loan, the cost is 8.6. So there is a differential cost, right? What implication can that have on the framework that we are trying to create?
Fund utilization.
Sorry?
Funds utilization.
Yes. So suppose now you are trying to judge. Okay. Archana is trying to judge. She has this 75 lakh loan. Okay. And she's suddenly got 55 lakhs as a bonus. Okay. Now she is trying to judge whether I should repay it, use it to repay, okay, or invest it somewhere else. I'm preempting some of my later slides, but what we have learnt today, how will we use that in this same use case? Existing loan Archana has taken is 75. This is, we have learnt already that cost up to 23-25 is 5.92. On balance it is 8.6, right? She's now got 55 lakhs. How will you help her to take this decision? She is your client, she's come to you for advice. And Archana, you can be your own client as well.
I'll ask her to repay.
Why?
Because she will be earning any which way less than 8.6% considering the investment opportunities available.
But she's got 55 lakhs.
Yes.
So that 8.6 applies only to 51 lakhs 74,000. So what about the balance 3 lakh 25,000?
Just to
Okay, so let me add the example. She has a ability to buy tax-free bonds, risk-free, tax-free bonds. I mean, I hate the word risk-free because nothing in life is risk-free. But let us say AAA rated tax-free bonds. Section
10.
Yeah, same ones. 7% पे मिल रहा है. अभी 55 लाख आया है. And let us say that is the only thing she wants to consider. अब क्या advise करोगे? Either 7% में she invests there, or she repays the loan, or do a bit of this and do a bit of that.
No, I think this slide tells us that.
Sorry?
This slide tells us that up to 23 lakh 25,000, okay, the cost is 5.92.
Right.
That is one of the lowest costs that you would get anyway. So you should keep the loan amount up to that amount and repay the balance.
Okay, how many people agree with that?
We'll also factor in the prepayment penalty cost.
No prepayment penalty. Ask me the assumptions, I'll give you. No prepayment penalty.
But ask her to repay in any which way.
No, so okay, let's have various answers. So you are saying, sir, repay how much out of the 55 lakhs?
Keep the loan at 23 lakh 25,000.
Which means repay 51 lakhs, no?
Yeah, okay, 51 lakhs.
And what to do with the balance 3 lakh 25? She has 55 lakhs.
You will buy HDFC shares.
The only option is 7% tax-free bonds.
Yeah, that can invest in that. 7% tax-free bonds.
For 3 lakh 25,000. That's what you are suggesting.
But that's a tax-free.
Okay. Anil is suggesting entire 55 lakhs, the home loan should be paid. Any other suggestion?
I think she should invest in the bonds because there she earning
full amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There she earning 7%. Whereas the interest reduction is from 7.7 to 5.9. That's a margin of only 2%. The savings effectively is the 2%. If she repays it, the savings effectively is those 2%.
I don't know the answer. So you are saying invest everything into the tax-free bonds.
What that will make is she can earn 7% there.
Right.
If she prepays the loan, she is reducing the interest from 7.7%, effectively from 7.7% to 5.92%, which is roughly 1.7% or 20%.
Right.
ideally, it is better to earn more of the investment. And then,
Okay, so I've not got the logic. But your answer is buy bonds. Any other answers? Buy bonds with entire 50. So we've got three answers till now. Okay, he's saying 5174 repay 3,25,000 something, buy tax-free bonds. Anil is saying repay. You are saying buy bonds. Any other answers?
If I go up to 7%, so if my repayment brings my that effective rate to 7%, I suggest to
So
that
you'll have to calculate and tell.
so somewhere
That answer you will have to calculate. You are great at calculating, so you must calculate and give.
somewhere around 30-35,
Okay.
and then keep the
Okay, so his answer 35 lakhs, let us say that is the answer. 35 lakhs in tax-free bonds and 20 lakhs you repay the loan.
Yeah,
Okay.
proportionate.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I came late.
Yes, sir.
I want to know what is the EMI on the loan?
Why is that relevant? Right now, she's got 55 lakhs. EMI will have to work out. I mean, that's a PMT function in Excel. Why is that relevant?
So 11 is okay, and 7 years, 1% bond for what period?
7% bond for the balance period of the loan, 15 years.
Every assumption is concealed.
after 35 you pay the interest, and 20
Okay, he's just reversed his answer. Okay, we are allowing you to reverse. Okay, but ye lock kar dein. Okay. Any other answers? Yes.
Because loan gives tension.
Okay, no, it's a for an advisor. It's great to hear, and we will cover that, sir. Although right now we are looking at financial costs, and advisors need to consider much more than financial costs.
She may not आगे चल के earn, or there is risk of the job.
No, she is secure. She is working with Reserve Bank of India.
Still as the loan is not good.
Okay. So now we'll take a quick vote. How many people vote with Mr.
Surendra Mehta.
with Mr. Surendra? How many people vote with him? Okay.
Mr. Mehta said equity.
No. 51 lakh 74.
He also mentioned HDFC shares.
No. I changed that. HDFC shares are not available. It's not available. My assumptions. My question. My assumptions. Okay.
Otherwise, equity. Put everything.
No, it's not a question. What Mr. Mehta said, it is not only there is an arbitrage opportunity of 4.5%.
So don't preempt my presentation, boss.
good, yeah.
In this use case, the only choice is prepay or buy tax-free bonds. तीसरा choice नहीं है. Okay. So that you see the requirement to do that is that helps you learn when you narrow the choices. That helps you learn how you made those choices. We are covering equity later. Right now, let's just narrow these choices just to understand how I would think about it. Yes. So, how many people are supporting him? 5174 loan repayment, 325, buy tax-free bonds. Okay. How many people support Anil? Okay. Repay the loan completely. You said 55 lakhs. Debt free तो नहीं हो रहा है, 20 लाख तो फिर भी बाकी है. Okay. And how many people support 35 Aditya? 35 lakhs you prepay the loan and 20 lakhs you. Okay. Right. And you had an option which I actually didn't understand.
So my thing was that you invest completely in the bonds, which is the
7%. Entire 55 lakhs in 7% bonds. How many people support that? Okay, good. Okay, so very widely divided. Answer can be anything, but how should you take it? What is the basis? Okay. Now, till you are paying. So I am going to go by Surendra Bhai's definition. Okay. As long as you are paying so much, you are actually saving 8.6%, because you see that when she repays 51,74,000 and you now rework the interest, okay, you will only end up paying 5.92 on the balance. So effectively, till she is paying 5174, she is saving 8.6. The opportunity cost is 7, and she's saving 8.6. So money saved is money earned, right? So 8.6 is greater than 7, okay, and therefore this is a pure arithmetic, okay. 8.6 being greater up to 5174, it's a slam dunk, right? Just pay. If that is the only thing you will look at, if arithmetic is the only thing that you, right? Yeah, that will come to. Right now we are sticking to financial matters, right? Which leaves with her with how much money? 325. Now that 325 money, okay, that she will save 5.92%. Whereas if she puts that 325 in the only available investment option, which is the tax-free bonds, she will get 7%. So if you look at only arithmetic, okay, then logically what Surendra Bhai said, okay, is the logical answer. Repay 5174 and reinvest 3325 in tax-free bonds. Does that sound okay? If these are the only two choices and financial consideration is the only reason, okay, that we will do it, and we'll get in the next slide, we'll get into equity and we'll get into non-financial considerations as well.
This might consider that.
And let me cover yours. I think this is the mistake that most people make. This is a meaningless number. 7.77 is a meaningless number. That is like the average tax rate. Average tax rate has no meaning, right? For you to take a decision, it is the marginal rate that has a meaning, correct? So same way, 7.77 or 7 that you are talking of has no meaning. What has got meaning is only here.
If I consider that next year, that 2 lakh will definitely fall down, because next year when she pays the.
So we don't, okay, in this example, we don't consider next year. Okay. See, we need to isolate our choices, okay, to be able to understand how to make those choices, right? Now we'll try and build this framework, right? Should you borrow if you have the funds, okay? As you said, the cost drops down to 5.92, roughly say 6%, okay? Currently, although in the example I said 7%, tax-free bonds are today less than 5%, okay? I mean, considerably less than 5%, actually. I think 4.5 or something like that, okay? And therefore, even that 5.92 does not make sense, okay? If you are looking at only arithmetic, okay? Sorry?
That 55 lakhs
next year we'll then advise her कि वो 20 लाख दे दो और बाकी का जो 30 लाख है वो मुझे दे दो. Okay. Now we come to this equity, right? We were talking about HDFC shares में डाल देंगे या सारा का सारा shares में डाल दो, okay, because it earns more. मेरे हिसाब से वो कैलकुलेशन सही नहीं है, मेरे हिसाब से. Now these are opinions, okay. The way we approach it in our practice when we are dealing with clients is that you separate facts and opinions, okay. The first part is arithmetic, that you must explain to the client. Second part is opinion, okay, that again you must explain to the client, because my opinion I will not project onto my client. I may be conservative, so I may say only tax-free bonds is the only comparison. My client may be very aggressive, and a lot of people in the room are very aggressive, and they say, I'm okay. Okay. So I will take equity ka return. Okay. I think as long as you know that you are taking equity return, let's say you decide to do it in equity, the point is you must do it knowingly, and that is the role of an advisor. That any trade-off that that person is doing, he must do it knowingly. He or she must do it knowingly. Okay. So the risk profiles are yet certain cost, 8.6, 5.92 are certain cost. Equity returns 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 30, 40, 50, 100 जो आपको लेना हो, okay, वो completely uncertain है. Okay, so that is like comparing apples and oranges. Now that is my opinion. Okay. And this should not be done without disclosure. I think that really, and as far as advisors go, we have a conflict of interest, because if the client repays the loan, okay, we make money on assets under advice. Now if the client uses the money to repay the loan, okay, my fee stays the same. Whereas if he uses the money, he or she uses the money to buy assets, financial assets, my fee goes up. Okay, so my position is even more difficult. I have to first tell the client कि भाई साहब देखो मेरा conflict of interest, I am required regulatorily to disclose. So when we disclose, we make sure we not only verbally disclose. Okay, when the advice goes, on top is first the conflict of interest. Especially, there is no conflict of interest if I am advising to pay off the loan. That there is no conflict. But if I am advising not to pay off the loan, okay, then there is a clear conflict of interest. Investment advisors are required to maintain what are called fiduciary standards, putting clients' interest above their own. And we have to do that regulatorily. And if it is proved that we have not done it, then we can lose our license. Another very interesting reason in one of such workshops, people came कि बॉस मेरे पास पैसा होता है, मैं क्या करता हूँ ना 20 लाख का लोन ले लेता हूँ बैंक से. तो उसका लॉयर होता है ना, वो चेक कर लेता है 6 करोड़ की प्रॉपर्टी खरीद रहा हूँ, ओके, 20 लाख का लोन ले लिया, तो उसका बैंक के लॉयर ने चेक कर लिया, बैंक ने 20 लाख दिया, मैंने दूसरे दिन रिपे कर दिया, मेरे को लॉयर का फ्री मिल गया. ओके, तो ये फ्री में लेने की आदत है हमारी. ओके, the only thing I told him, okay, बैंक के लॉयर की कोई रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं, रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बैंक की तरफ है. So this is clear. Even if the bank has looked at it and then there is a problem with the title, you still have to repay the loan. उसमें कोई डाउट नहीं है. There are multiple decisions. Okay, you cannot tell the bank कि बॉस तुमने भी तो चेक किया था, आपको चेक करके रखना चाहिए था. It is your primary responsibility. तो आवर एडवाइस टू क्लाइंट्स इज, भाई साहब 6 करोड़ की प्रॉपर्टी खरीद रहे हो यार, मतलब लाख 2 लाख रुपया आप फीस का, लीगल फीस का नहीं दोगे, एक अच्छे लॉयर से चेक नहीं करवाओगे. ओके, सो दैट आई थिंक इज समथिंग, अगेन इज समथिंग वी ऑट टू थिंक फॉर आवरसेल्व्स, ओके, एंड ऑल्सो फॉर आवर क्लाइंट्स. It becomes even more important. So you may be willing to take the risk. Okay, the client may also be willing to take the risk, but you have to point out to him that there is a risk. I think that your job is over as an advisor. You point out to him that there is a risk, you better have your own lawyer. Okay, client says no, I'm willing to take the risk. What do? You quickly document, I had asked you to take this, and please do that. And so that tomorrow कि आपने बोला ही नहीं, okay, so वो नहीं होना चाहिए. And which brings me to the interesting thing about, you mentioned that कि सर पे बोझ नहीं चाहिए. Now that is non-financial, but that does not, so the benefit, right, सर पे बोझ नहीं होने का benefit, it has a financial value. How does it have a financial value? Okay, when you feel more free, you're more productive. Okay, So, I mean, there is a very famous saying that if you don't like your job, take a home loan, you will start loving your job. Okay, right? Uska EMI chukana hai. Okay, being free of that burden. Okay, and we see this in clients very often, and these are high flying clients with very high loans as well. Okay,
They sleep well.
they sleep well, and sleeping well has an economic value, as study after study after study shows. Okay, not putting a value to that is again something. So what the client has to say is, what as an advisor I have to say is कि देखिए सर, ये आपको 5.92 पे मिल रहा है. ओके, इसको आप रीपेमेंट, इसका आप 7% पे डाल सकते हो. ओके, अब आप ये डिसाइड करो, ओके, कि ये जो डिफरेंस है ना 1.08% का, इज दिस वर्थ the comfortable sleep that you will get? Because comfortable sleep की क्या वैल्यू है वो सिर्फ क्लाइंट जानता है, लेकिन वैल्यू उसकी है, और वो वैल्यू वो किसके सामने देखेगा, that is something that is the advisor's job to point out. Again, surplus is the same thing. If you get a surplus, it's the same whether you should borrow if you have the money, or if you have the surplus, whether you should repay or invest. It's the same decision. We have already done this. So I'm going to quickly look at this SBI max gain. Okay, and you know how this overdraft, how does this overdraft product work, you know. So the overdraft product is fairly simple, and let's look at this example. Okay, so this on the left is a normal EMI loan, 50 lakhs ka normal EMI loan at 9%. Right side mein it is the same loan, 50 lakhs at 9%. The only difference is, in an offset loan, a current account is opened. Okay, उस current account में borrower ने first month के end में he has deposited 5 lakhs, second month के end में he has withdrawn the 5 lakhs. That's all. Other things have remained completely the same, right? So here you can see the EMI breakup happening. The interest amounts keep going down as the principal. I presume everybody is aware of how amortization works, and you can see that the loan becomes zero at the end. This is a normal EMI loan. On the right, so I mean you can do this, 50 lakhs, 9% for 1 month, the interest amounts to 37,500. The total EMI is 44,986. 44,986 minus 37,500 is 7,486. 50 lakhs minus 7,486 is 49,92,514. That becomes the opening principal for the second month. Uspe 9% is this much, principal remaining is this much, 49,84, and so on till it becomes zero at the end of 240 months. What only happens in max gain, the only change that happened, end of 1 month 5 lakh deposited, end of second month withdrawn, और कुछ change नहीं है. So what happened at the end of the first month, 49,92,514 was there, but a check of 5 lakhs was deposited in the current account, therefore in the linked current account, and any balance in the linked current account is offset against the loan. That's why it's called an offset loan. Okay, so this becomes 44,92,514. On that, when you calculate, the interest is lower. Okay, instead of 37,444, it is 33,694, and therefore the repayment is higher. Now the closing balance is 4481. And that again goes up because he now withdraws the 5 lakhs. Okay. Net difference between the two you can see is 3,750. And that's exactly 9% of the 5 lakhs paid for 1 month. Okay. That is the saving that the person makes by depositing and withdrawing. Right? Everybody got this? So, I mean, if this is so beneficial, everybody would use the overdraft product. But obviously, the banks charge a little more for the overdraft product, typically anywhere between 0.15 to 0.25% more. Good news is it's completely negotiable. Okay. May not be in the public sector banks, but definitely in the private sector banks. Not all private sector banks offer the overdraft product. Banks don't like the overdraft product because essentially what the client is doing is his treasury function is giving it over to the bank for free. Yes, sir.
The overdraft product is available for 20 years?
Of course, yes. SBI Max Gain, it's available very much.
Because a couple of banks are giving up to 5 years, 10 years, not 20 years.
Depends. Must be a public sector bank, sir. No, because non-public sector banks, everybody is offering.
Banks are giving at the age up to 65 years. So if person is like mine is 40, so it's so I'll be eligible up to 25 years. But they can go up to 30 years in total. If person is like 35, and then he can avail it up to 30 years. So banks are now offering 30 years loan product.
Including
So it doesn't matter OD or non-OD. For them now there is no differentiation.
And in this example, the security is a property.
Same thing.
It's the same home loan.
Only thing the account is different.
एक साथ में एक account और लगा देते हैं. उस account में जो भी पैसे हैं, वो पैसा is offset against your loan account. Interest is saved.
So you are
and you can withdraw it back at any time. That is the beauty. It is like you are allowed to prepay and withdraw your prepayment. Allowed to prepay, withdraw your prepayment. Okay. So the complete flexibility.
EMI will go as it is.
EMI will go as it is. Absolutely. But less number of EMIs will go. In that example, we've saved about 1/10 of an EMI. Here, in the end, half of an EMI we would save. Yeah.
In fact, PSUs are much liberal. They are giving you 100% OD, wherein foreign banks they keep a cap 25%, 50%. Like bank like a standard. So this
it depends. It depends.
Other benefit you get only loan interest payment rather than any other commercial. That is the biggest.
Okay, so I'm quite conscious that we are running out of time and we need to do the floating rate. So I'm going to go a little fast now. Okay. So this is very, very beneficial because of the complete flexibility that this gives. जब पैसा है डाल दिया, you are saving the home loan interest rate 5.92, 8.6, whichever slab you are in. Okay. और जब जरूरत पड़ी निकाल लिया, आप इंटरनेट बैंकिंग से निकाल सकते हो, ATM से कैश निकाल सकते हो. It is available to you at call. So this kind of flexibility is superb. So contingency funds के लिए अगर आपने पैसे रखे हैं, so this is an ideal place to keep it.
So that initial 5 lakhs, what you said, that is not funded by the bank. That is your own.
That is your own fund that you put in. So imagine a businessman, right? He gets paid by a customer, then he has to pay the supplier. अब उसके पास कोई लोन फैसिलिटी नहीं होती, तो बाय द टाइम ही गेट्स इट फ्रॉम द कस्टमर एंड पेज इट, 1-2 दिन का गैप होता है. ओके, तो 1-2 दिन के लिए ही कैन अर्न इंटरेस्ट एट द होम लोन रेट. सो इट मेक्स इट्स क्वाइट बेनिफिशियल. इट्स वेरी वेरी बेनिफिशियल, स्पेशली फॉर self employed and professional people, even for salaried. Sir, interest saved is interest earned. Okay, so we are going to look at the floating rate intricacies. So just the floating rate As far as banks are concerned, so both banks and housing finance companies are regulated now by RBI. Earlier, housing finance companies were regulated by NHB, now both are regulated by RBI. But banks have a stricter regulatory regimen, the housing finance companies have a less strict regimen. Banks have to link their floating rate loan. Your loan is from a bank or from a bank?
No, sorry, it's from this housing company.
हाउसिंग कंपनी तो उनका दो तरीका है, एक आपका एक आधार है और उसके ऊपर एक देयर इज अ स्प्रेड, राइट? देयर इज अ रेफरेंस रेट एंड अ स्प्रेड एंड दैट इज द टोटल कॉस्ट, राइट? Banks are not allowed to have in-house reference rates. Their reference rates have to link to an external benchmark. The most common external benchmark used is the RBI repo rate. Okay, and we will see examples of that. Okay, housing finance, but spreads they can keep changing. Not for the same customer. For fresh customers, they can have different spreads. हाउसिंग फाइनेंस कंपनीज दोनों चीज चेंज कर सकती है, अपनी मर्जी से कर सकती हैं. वो रेफरेंस रेट भी चेंज कर सकते हैं, स्प्रेड भी चेंज कर सकते हैं. विल सी व्हाट दे हैव डन. ओके, एंड दिस शुड आंसर कि व्हाई लेंडर्स ऑफर लोअर, हाउ लेंडर्स ऑफर, नॉट व्हाई. व्हाई इज वेरी क्लियर, दे वांट टू मेक प्रॉफिट. ओके, फ्रॉम द इनर्शिया ऑफ ओल्ड बोरोवर्स. ओके, डू यू नो हाउ मच इंटरेस्ट रेट यू आर पेइंग, अर्चना? What is the interest rate you are paying?
8.45.
8.45. Which lender are you from? Huh?
HDFC.
So you go back and check. You are not paying 8. When did you take the loan?
Last year.
Right. So you're not paying 8.45. You are definitely not paying 8.45. So there, people don't know the interest rates that they pay. Okay. And if I am wrong, please do put it in the group. Please do put it in the group. And if I am right, also please put it in the group.
I did go back and tell them that.
So you got it changed.
Yes, I got it changed.
You got it changed. Good. Good. It is, if you had not got it changed, this is where you would have been.
9.2%.
There. And we are going to explain how they do it. This is a quick explanation. So HDFC uses a reference rate called retail prime lending rate. Okay, prime lending rate by definition means the rate at which you lend to, the prime borrowers. Okay, so but ये नाम का retail prime lending rate है. Okay, because उनका retail prime, ये example जो दे रहा हूँ ये नवंबर 2019 का है, and we are taking it right till May 2023. There is a reason we have chosen this as the first example. November 2019 में they were saying their retail prime lending rate is 16.60 and they have a negative spread. Banks are not allowed a negative spread. Banks का spread या तो zero या positive. ये हाउसिंग फाइनेंस कंपनी पॉजिटिव हो सकता है, नेगेटिव हो सकता है, जो करना है कर सकता है, खुला मैदान है उनके लिए. ओके, so this was the rate that they paid in November. So this is for 1 crore. These are published rates. 1 crore home loan salaried male with high CIBIL score. Okay, so 5 assumptions. Okay, 5 assumptions. ICICI Bank at the same time had a home loan rate linked to the repo rate. The repo rate at that time was 5.15. The spread charged at that time for this variety of borrowers was 3.5. They paid 8.65. SBI has a very interesting tiered structure. They have two spreads, spread 1 and spread 2. Okay, so the first spread is repo rate plus a spread of 2.65, then a spread 2 of 0.5%, and the rate therefore is 8.3%. This is November 2019. Okay. Now, COVID happened, repo rates dropped. So we are now looking at the same thing in December 2020, almost a year later. By that time, the repo rate had dropped from 5.15 to 4%. Okay. So what did HDFC do? They dropped the RPLR, the retail prime lending rate. Repo rate dropped by 1.15. They dropped their RPLR by 0.5%, 16.6 to 16.10. Okay. For new borrowers only, they changed the spread from minus 8.30 to minus 8.75. So here is what happened. RPLR became 16.10. The spread remained at 8.30. Therefore, the November 19 borrowers paid 7.80%. December 20 borrowers, ये नए borrowers है ना, we are now sitting in December 20. तो ये तो higher rate नहीं देंगे, तो इनके लिए इन्होंने spread, negative spread, minus spread को कम कर दिया. RPLR 16.10 minus spread of 8.75 became 7.35. तो जुड़वा भाई ने एक साल बाद में लोन लिया, ओके, बगल के फ्लैट पे लिया, सेम जगह काम करते थे, सेम सैलरी है, बट 0.45% एक्स्ट्रा पेमेंट कर रहे हैं.
But I mean, what's the logic this way? Because if at all they have to charge more, I mean, they want to get new business, they are charging less, fine. But then why they penalize the existing customer?
Is there anybody from HDFC here?
They're taking the benefit of the inertia.
They are taking the benefit of inertia. If she had not done anything, she would be paying 9.2%. And we are in the end telling you, please do something. And we will come to that. We'll come to that. But please be rest assured, okay, that old borrowers, it is the old borrowers who are paying for the fancy bonuses, the fancy salary packages, the fancy ESOPs that you see. The top bankers like me, unfortunately, during my time, those things didn't exist.
But I have taken loan from CFC,
right?
And then they were to revise the rate provided you apply.
So they don't exactly. So exactly, I'm running short of time, so I'm going to cut you back a little bit, right? So what did ICICI Bank do? They dropped the spread for new borrowers. Repo rate का वो कुछ नहीं कर सकते, but they dropped the spread from 3.5 to 3. Okay. So old borrowers paid 4 plus 3.5, 7.5. New borrowers paid 7. Okay. What did SBI do? In fact, they did something very strange. They actually increased the spread for new borrowers. Okay. So in this one rare instance, new borrowers paid more than old borrowers. Okay. So the old borrowers 4% plus spread 1 of 2.65, spread 2 of 0.5, 7.50. Okay. New borrowers, because the spread had increased from 0.5% to 0.7, actually paid more. Okay. So this was the only place where new borrowers suffered as compared to the old borrowers, but don't worry, they made up for that if we now jump to today, right? Everybody got what has happened here? Yes? Now let's jump to today, right? Again, there are lots of movement in between, but May 2023, okay? By now the repo rate has jumped from 4 to 6.5, right? What has HDFC done? They've increased it by 2.45%. Okay, the RPLR 16.10 say 18.55. Spread for new borrowers only has increased from minus 8.75 to minus 10.05. And here is the impact. Today, if there were a triplet brothers and they were all working for the same company and they were buying flats next to each other, okay, the only difference being the first bought in November 19 and he or she is paying 10.25, The December 20 borrower, if they had taken it from HDFC, is borrowing paying 9.80, and the third one is paying 8.5%. Okay, this, unless of course they are smart like Archana is and they went back to HDFC, and then, as he said, okay, they say, okay, you apply, you can do this online, by the way, okay, and they change it to today's rate. So if only you get over the inertia, if only you tell the client, please get over your inertia, you can save some fancy monies. Imagine 1.75% per annum on a 1 crore. Okay, even for the best of us, it's not small money, sir. Okay, it's definitely not small money. Okay, and this is for one borrower. So you imagine when you aggregate this over multiple borrowers, what is happening?
But they do charge some fees for this.
That's right. So the fees, why they charge also, I will tell you. The fees they charge is, they know they can't charge fees if you prepay and go to another borrower, another lender. But उसमें बहुत झंझट है. ओके, तो ये वो मगजमारी नहीं करने का पैसा देते हैं ना हम लोग. ओके, ये वो है. But official है. That, I mean, sorry if I gave an impression. It's very much official. And allowed by RBI, incidentally. Allowed. Earlier it was not allowed, now it is allowed. So, people have this touching faith in regulators. Okay? Ki the regulator will protect my interest. Okay? Saying people forget that God also helps those who help themselves. Okay? So, regulators will help you, but you first have to help yourself. Same thing, I mean, you pick up any one of them, okay? You look at, so people think public sector banks are different. Look at what SBI has done. Look at the difference. Look at this difference. Okay? So public sector ho, private sector ho, if you are an inertial borrower, be prepared to pay more. Okay? So one thing is very clear. Whether it is reduction or when it increases for everyone. Fatafat. Okay? When it reduces pretty slowly. There is a lot of stickiness. Okay? And only you can grease the downward revision by forcing it, by putting in pressure. And this is irrespective of the type of lender, whether private sector, whether public sector. I have picked up 3. And these rates are incidentally available on their website. I picked it up from the website. Okay, these rates are available. You can go and do this. And those of you who work for banks, please go and do it for your own banks. Okay. So new borrowers obviously will not come in unless they get the best rate. Okay. So new borrowers very clearly, but they soon become existing borrowers, right? So today's new borrower is tomorrow's existing borrower. So I think you become cheatable. That's a lovely word.
Yeah, but what about if they take a fixed rate?
Okay, that's a good question. What happens if they take a fixed rate? Kahan milta sir fixed rate?
Not allowed by the RBI.
No, it's a very much allowed.
No,
sir.
fixed rate for home loans.
It's allowed.
Yeah.
The RBI
It's,
said
It's allowed, but banks are not offering.
Banks are
because those banks which offered a few years ago, they got hit very badly. SBI, Banks Gain itself was offering.
I think RBI is
No,
no
there
circular
is
which
no-
is saying that all should be first 2 years. The benchmarks.
No.
What they had done earlier.
Fixed rate, ek minute. So that I finish off this.
But put in context, they were offering for 3 years, not lifetime of the loan.
There are lifetime. So, ek minute. and I'm saying this with authority, okay? And this can be checked on the group, okay? There is no restriction on offering lifetime fixed rate loans. No restriction. No restriction, sir. RBI does not, but no bank, to the best of my knowledge, actually offers. It's a commercial decision. It's a commercial decision.
I was understanding that they have been with the new guidelines which we came that at least for any loan, for all retail loans to be linked to the external benchmarks.
All floating rate external loan links to be linked to the external benchmark.
And any loan whichever is given has to be price reset once a year.
Only floating rate loans have to be reset at least once a year. At least once a year.
But that's only for banks, right? Not for housing finance companies.
Housing finance companies,
they have a lot more flexibility.
Total flexibility. So that brings to the opportunity, right? The opportunity is this: you switch loans. If you are an existing borrower, become a new borrower. No, for the another bank, you are a new borrower, and they are very happy to take you on. There is a competition going on, okay? Because सबको बढ़ाना है. और existing दूसरे का existing borrower, उसका proven history है, उसका property का भी proven history है, उसका repayment का proven history है. Okay, so that is best. From an existing borrower, you become a new borrower. So prevalent it has now become, okay, that now if you call your existing bank saying मैं चला, okay, and of course आप time पे payment दे रहे हो. अगर आप payment ही time पे नहीं दे रहे हो तो बोले जाओ पैसे दो और जाओ, okay. लेकिन अगर आप समय पे पैसे दे रहे हो, okay, so they will retain you, including public sector banks. Including public sector banks. And that is the opportunity, whether for yourself or you. So imagine your client comes and you tell him, boss, kitna rate de rahe ho? Like I asked Archana. Okay. Now Archana knows because he has just gone and get it changed. 99% of the clients don't know the rate. You can log in and find out the rate. Then you say, make this phone call and the rate reduces. Now there is a huge, huge value addition that you have put in place. So now just I'm having some fun before this ends, right? This is tax trivia. So processing fees, prepayment charges, etc. I mean, I don't know how many of you know, but Section 228A defines all this as interest. And so if it is on a home loan, this will be deductible as an interest. This is black and white, it's not gray. Okay. And go back and check. I would really urge you to do that.
But this is up to 2 lakh.
Or if it is a self-occupied property, yes.
For under construction, it will be after the.
It will be after the from the year in which the construction is completed and amortized over 5 years.
If you already have rental income, then 2 lakhs below 3 lakhs.
Yeah. So home loan taxation is the stuff that makes money for the tax consultants. Okay. Employer loans at less than SBI rate. So if you get in concessional rate, okay, it leads to a perk value. Of course, employers calculate it. So, but people may not notice it. That's the only point that I'm making. And my favorite perennial item. Okay. Let's say, and this is the use case I'm giving, right? There is a building, okay? You have a flat in which you stay, okay, where you have taken a home loan, and you take the next door flat on rent because family बड़ी हो गई, तो अब next door flat भाड़े पे ले लिया, okay? आपको कंपनी से HRA मिलता है, okay? वो HRA मिलता है और आप वो भाड़े के लिए यूज कर रहे हैं. और यहाँ पे लोन ले रखा है, उसका इंटरेस्ट डिडक्शन आप क्लेम कर रहे हैं. कर पाएंगे? नहीं कर पाएंगे. नहीं कर पाएंगे. हाउ मेनी पीपल से नहीं कर पाएंगे?
Yes, you are allowed.
हाँ?
Yes, you are allowed.
Sorry?
Yes, you are allowed. These are two separate things.
Yeah. How many people? But Anil says it's not. How many people say it's not allowed?
Say you are unable to occupy your self-occupied property because of the location you're staying.
I think my
That is what
I will share the same.
Different location.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So that's why I selected the use case very carefully. Same building, adjacent flats. Okay. So the answer is it is claimable black and white, not gray. Okay. But because this is chartered accountants, this is the homework. Okay. Please go read. Okay. Section 23(2), which covers self-occupied property. Okay. Section 24, Section 1013A. I can be a little off on the subsections. The HRA subsection, whatever is the HRA subsection. Okay. First of all, HRA, there is no connection of claiming of HRA. Okay. With claiming of deduction under 24. They are not connected at all. Okay. HRA exemption, and we're talking old tax regime. Okay. HRA exemption. Okay. The only thing is you must actually pay rent. Okay. And that flat must not belong to you, because you can't pay rent to a flat that belongs to you. Right? There is no other condition for claiming HRA exemption. So all this about being different location, you are reading section 80 RR or RRA. I'm not sure what section that is, what is allowed to be claimed for people who are not receiving HRA. So self-employed people or even employed people who don't receive HRA, okay, they can claim rental paid. Okay, people read those sections, okay, into section 1013A. If 1013A is the right HRA section, right? Right. Please go and read. This is black and white. Deduction taken for any loan taken for interest, deduction of interest on any loan taken to acquire, construct, repair, renew, reconstruct any property. Okay. So it can be from a relative, it need not be from a bank. It need not be called a home loan. It just has to be used. You have to show the purpose that it was used to construct, acquire, repair, renew. Repair also. Okay. That is allowed as a deduction. And same applies to higher education also. If you have taken a loan from a bank, there of course there is a condition that it has to be from a bank. Okay. And it has to be used for the purpose of higher education. So that is the end. I have overshot a bit. Do we have time for any questions?
Well, I think all the questions have been answered. We have to move on from lending to digital lending. And now, incidentally, you mentioned about 80 RRA. It's not 80 RRA, it's 80 GG.
80 GG.
13 is correct. And now there is a transformation in the home finance sector. The largest home lender is becoming a bank soon. Next month, the dates have already been announced. So, and
maybe you could answer like with the merger happening, the impact on the lower RPLR
So it's a very, very significant change that Archana is talking about, right? One of the largest lenders is now going to become a bank, okay? Which means that when they are now offering, now when Archana goes back, okay, after the merger, okay, because she'll continue to pay more than an existing bank lender, borrower, okay. Now when she goes back, okay, they will have to offer her a repo rate linked loan. No longer can they offer her a RPLR. उसमें भी होता है जैसे हमने देखा, लेकिन कम होता है, थोड़ा सा कम होता है.
But in that case, so many people, lakhs of customers, for everyone they will have to change.
Automatic कुछ भी नहीं है sir.
No, but bank cannot charge, when you say it, bank cannot charge RPLR.
That they would take a special dispensation from RBI. Automatic नहीं होगा sir. मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी आपको. ऑटोमेटिक नहीं होगा ना, इसीलिए यही आर्ग्यूमेंट करके ऑटोमेटिक नहीं करेंगे.
अच्छा, now Santosh, while he's getting ready on this matter of home loans, floating rates, fixed rates. There is an international crisis going on, particularly in the US, on this fixed rate system. And when the rate hikes went from 0% to 5.5, last was the fixed rates actually also went up to 5%. Just imagine a person who is taking a 30 years loan at 5%. When the rate falls, so there is no sense about the forecast of 30 years. And earlier it was very, very low rate. This has effectively destabilized the financial systems and the banks and also the mortgage companies. So very, very interesting. We have always discussed that. Now, Santosh?
But it's a big crisis in the US as well.
Major. And only on interest and variable rates. Because here risk management system is very important. As Harsh said, regulator allows it. But the risk management system, Santosh mentioned about asset liability mismatches and also the interest rate swaps make a big difference. The max gain account, we discussed about that. I think you just get ready until you're getting ready. 7.5% floating rate, 8% fixed rate. But the fixed rate, okay, you do a deal, fixed rate 15 years. But at the time of sanction, they said this is 3 years. After 3 years, it will be reset. 1.5 years stability is there. What happens after 1.5 years? There is a lot of volatility in the market. Every 2-3 years, there's a big change. And interest rate goes up from 8 to 10%, 11%. Then they said, we are doing a reset. And so when you, after 3 years, a fixed rate also goes up, floating also goes up. Then the banks try to lure you. It is so much, why don't you convert to floating? And the floating rates keep on going up. So these are the type of traps, whether it is some of the PSU banks or private banks, HSBC having good products, fixed and this, and PSU banks, SBI, BOB. But the best is to look at it deeply. And when the cost is low, it varies. You may borrow at 7-8%, you may borrow at 10-11%. When the cost is low, at that time, go for fixed rate. And go for OD. And when the cost is higher, at that time one can go in for floating rate because one knows it will be coming down. And look at from international perspective, you can borrow. A lot of people are borrowing and buying houses in US.
But Manojji, there's a lot of experience. So, Harish mentioned about the bank that can be, and he went back to the bank and not the bank but the housing finance company and renegotiated for the. But many a time, if you see some of these RBI inspections on the banks, especially on the banks, the most common finding is that you have not passed on the benefit of a decline in the PCI, prime lending rate to certain class of borrowers. Maybe because of a system lap, maybe whatever. So in many cases, they ask the bank to refund the money.
That's very interesting when you come to know about it by inspection, and it is only limited cases.
And at that point in time, if the loan has been already repaid or prepaid, तो वो ढूंढने किसको जाएगा?
Prepaid. Now it is. You're ready, no? I think we can move on. This is a major development which happened a few days back. And incidentally, we always say we should do the latest. And we just discussed a few days back who will do. In fact, we discussed Rachana, who will do this. It's a very important topic from NBFC. And Santosh said, it's very important we should cover this. Latest updates. So it's very, very interesting. Now, Rajiv, he is in this business.
Oh, okay.
So actually, yeah. So he's planning a presentation on co-lending during the year. And this is it. And I spoke to our colleague Vikas. He says, "This is my topic." Vikas is the CEO of a fintech. Over 250 crores of lending, which may go to 1,000 crores. And he says, "This is my topic. I would love to do it." So I said, we are doing but and we are doing a high quality presentation, and we will do it a very short limited update. So we should know about it. And then we have with this lending, digital lending on digital currency. Very good, a short presentation he has prepared, and lot of updates, changes in regulations have happened in the last 3 weeks, 1 month. So we'll be trying to cover maximum, including LODR. There are major changes in the last 2 days. So LODR is major, including SEBI, NFRA, RBI circulars, whichever time permitting will cover.
So that's what I was, with the permission of Mantra, while I'll cover this, and of course, anybody can, but I'm permitting, and through permit technology, we can probably spend 10 minutes on the LODR regulations, because very interesting changes that have come through.
I think we'll just do the sequence if possible, or perhaps is digital lending you do, and then digital currency related to RBI will do, and then go on to SEBI and capital market. And then there is a lot. There is a lot. Even somebody has prepared a. Let's cover maximum possible with practical issues.
So I'll try to keep it quick, but try to have more conversations. So maybe first and foremost, maybe what is the meaning of FLD? This first loss default guarantee. So basically, since last few years, and Archana, and you can shoot me, but since last few years, the model that has been emerging is fintechs. Why is fintechs now under the radar of the Reserve Bank of India? So because of the way the spending habits have emerged, especially post-COVID, usage of this Google Pay and ATM have skyrocketed, right? And every now and then, when you shop on various websites or apps, you get an option to have EMI. Whatever you have to pay, you have an option to zero interest EMI or whatever. So for the banks or for the NBFCs, for the regulated entities, the way they look at it is they can no longer get into, as far as retail loans are concerned, the loan origination process is quite a long process. And as the mentioned that it's not like a home loan that you have to do a paperwork, etc. With an unsecured retail loan, if it's a person, let's say, who's using an HSBC Platinum card, typically that person may not, he's a credit-worthy person, and therefore you don't need to do much of a due diligence before lending to that person. So the thinking is that the fintechs, the partnership agreements, the way they have emerged is the fintechs, edtechs, etc. They have been referring their customers to the NBFCs through a partnership agreement. And in some cases, because of the speed at which the entire loan origination process works, the fintechs get into an arrangement called as first default loss guarantee, wherein they say that I'm referring to you these many millions or these many thousands of customers. If there is a default, okay, to a certain extent, then I will make sure. So fintech is, effectively underwriting the loan, so to say. The RBI has been very skeptic about it. In fact, last year in October, they said that this cannot work. You cannot have a non-regulated entity who's actually underwriting the credit, and therefore, straight away, it is said that this cannot be permitted. So, with effect from 1st October 2022, all the NBFCs and banks stopped getting into the Whether that circular was prospective or retrospective was not clear. A lot of them did continue with it. A lot of them, stopped it all over, even the old ones. So there was, in short, a lot of uncertainty around what the central bank has in mind with respect to FLDG model. So on 8th of June, the RBI came up with this guidelines with respect to default loss guarantee. So it has defined this, default loss guarantee now. So arrangements between regulated entities would be banks, NBFCs, and lending service providers, or between two regulated entities involving default loss guarantee, commonly known as FLDG, has since been examined by the bank, and it has been decided to permit such arrangements subject to certain guidelines. So it's a big U-turn as far as the RBI is concerned. From straight away banning, now they have permitted it, but subject to certain guidelines. We'll see during the course of this session that some of these requirements of the guidelines are pretty stringent. The default loss guarantee arrangement confirming to these guidelines shall not be treated as synthetic securitization and or shall not attract the provisions of loan participation. So they have carved out the co-lending or similar such arrangements from the participation of arrangements which involve default loss guarantee. Co-lending typically would be that two lenders are coming together. One of the regulated entity originates the loan, typically an NBFC, and then if there is a co-lending arrangement with one of these, HDFC or ICICI Bank, they said that the disbursement, either both will simultaneously do a disbursement in 20/80 ratio, or if the NBFC has already disbursed, it will get the refund for the 80% of the loan that it has originated or disbursed. So RBI has very clearly said that those arrangements will not be under the scope of these guidelines. So who all are under the scope of these guidelines? All the commercial banks, all the NBFCs, primary urban cooperative banks, state cooperative banks, and central cooperative banks. So all the RBI regulated entities are within the ambit of this. Again, yes.
So who is excluded?
The cooperative banks.
And the financial sector was cooperative is excluded.
Cooperative banks and basically some of the other players like the ARCs, etc. They in any ways don't do lending.
Yeah. So in case for
so even by extension, I mean, this is something great interest. Even by extension, this whole thing about this is only digital lending. One other place, they have spoken about entities that refer. I can't now remember what regulations are. Okay, so all these direct selling agents, etc.
Those are in any ways the conventional ones, the non-digital ones. If there is a regulation for them. Yeah, if they are digital, then they will be now covered
by. And non-digital ones are covered by which regulation?
There are separate RBI regulations wherein the fees that you pay to a a DA, etc. Those, what kind of paperwork needs to be done. That is a subject matter of another RBI circular. So contractual arrangement, by whatever name called, between the regulated entity and the entity meeting the criteria laid down in paragraph 3 of these guidelines, under which the latter guarantees to compensate the regulated entity loss due to default up to a certain percentage of the loan portfolio of the regulated entity specified upfront. Typically, you have arrangements wherein you have, let's say, if there is a DPD of 90 days, then immediately, as per the arrangement, the NBFC or the regulated entity can actually raise an invoice on the fintech and claim its money towards this FLDG that it has. Any other implicit guarantee or similar nature linked to the performance of the loan portfolio of the regulated entity and specified upfront shall be covered under the definition of DLC. So they have tried to have a broad definition or explanation of the this default loss guarantee. So a regulated entity may enter into default loss guarantee arrangements only with a lending service provider or other regulated entity with which it has entered into an outsourcing arrangement. Now this outsourcing for a regulated entity is again a subject matter of very detailed guidelines. So what this means is that a fintech which is doing a FLDG partnership with a regulated entity need not just be doing this FLDG business. It needs to actually be rendering some services to the towards the portfolio. So typically the fintech will be doing the servicing of the loan portfolio, and therefore it has to play a role within that portfolio. It cannot be just like a referral.
Like what? Can there be a startup which will enter into business of guaranteeing these loans? What other incidental services they need to provide to be qualified?
No, you can do that provided the startup is also rendering the servicing of the loan services to the NBFC. It cannot be like a referral.
Servicing means what?
I'm collecting. So if let's say there is a fintech and there is an NBFC, there is a FLDG in place. So what these guidelines now say?
Itself is NBFC. Most of the fintechs, they are NBFCs.
No, they are not.
They are NBFCs. They get approval from RBI.
No, sir.
Not fintech is not an NBFC.
Licenses.
So to get an NBFC license, then you are anyways a regulated entity.
Yes, you are a regulated.
There is no problem.
Yes, they are regulated entities.
The problem arises when you have, let's say, a company like, for the sake of example, let's say Byju's. Okay, Byju's has probably a portfolio of, let's say, 10 million students or parents of students. Okay, so if it comes up with an idea that I want to offer an EMI option to my customers, I cannot lend myself because I am not a licensed NBFC.
They have tie-ups.
So they would have a tie-up with Bajaj HDFC Bank or maybe a Bajaj Finance, etc. So you have what the RBI calls as a fintech or whatever, the lending service provider, and you have a regulated entity. So that Bajaj Finance in your example is a regulated entity. What this says now, and what this bullet point says, is basically Byju's shouldn't be just referring it to the shouldn't be just giving a FLDG and just referring it to Bajaj Finance. It should in fact get into the process of collection or servicing the loan. It should have a role to play in the portfolio. It cannot be just referring the the portfolio to the NBFC and just sitting.
How will they measure that?
Yes, sir. So
How will
Let
they?
Rajiv, he is in fintech. Yes.
So one of the use
And call
cases,
lending.
yeah. So one of the use cases is a very popular app that we use, Phone Pay or Bharat, right? So at the back end, while we use it as an retail customer for day-to-day transaction, there are shopkeepers who use this for collections, right? So for example, my company can have a tie-up with say a Bharat Pay. Okay, Bharat Pay typically what it will do is it will share with me the transaction data of last 6 months or 12 months of the applicant. Based on those transaction data, on a real-time basis, I can generate a loan amount eligibility for the applicant. If he borrows or if he ends up taking money from me, what happens is I disburse the loan in say 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That is actually happening now. And the collection activity also happens through Bharat. This is where the point comes that he needs to.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So what happens is, kal se, so for example, someone has taken a 1 lakh rupee loan from me. Kal se, he uses the same QR code. and his daily swipe or daily, QR collection on that QR code is say 20,000 rupees for the day. My EMI, daily EMI is 2,000 rupees. Bharat Pay will first pay that 2,000 to me and then 18,000 to his bank. So that is where this arrangement comes in, wherein Bharat Pay has a better purview or better control of the ecosystem or the shopkeepers under it.
That's correct. So from the NBFC's perspective, what happens is that now these loans which have been originated, and in his example, it would be the fintech which would have the details of the borrowers, right? Now, if you look at it from the bank's perspective or the NBFC's perspective, NBFC's LMS or LOS may not capture the data that the fintech has. So either you have the LMS talking to his platform, okay, which is a bit difficult practically. Else, what the NBFC or the bank would say is that I need to have access to that bank, to that platform, to your systems. Otherwise, as a regulated entity, I'm not monitoring the portfolio, the collections, etc. If you're doing that as a fintech, then you better be an outsourcing service provider. Otherwise, the bank or the NBFC would have to do it itself, which is practically it's difficult in a digital kind of a scenario.
Just I'm trying to understand. It's very interesting. Bharat Pay is a payment aggregator, licensed by RBI.
Yeah, but he has a payment gateway.
Not an NBFC.
Not an NBFC.
Is a gateway.
Yeah.
The payment gateway.
Yeah, so those are separate licenses.
Gateway license, no, payment aggregator.
Payment aggregator.
Is a payment. I know that. I'm aware. They're a payment aggregator, right? Under the Payment and Settlement Act, etc. Right? So they have access to this information, right? But they can't do anything with it except sort of pass on this information to somebody, right? You are a fintech, right?
Yeah, I'm a fintech.
You're a lender. You're a lender.
I'm a lender, yeah. I'm
With
NBFC.
You are a registered NBFC, right? So you are a registered NBFC. Now you will tell Bharat Pay that okay, who approaches Bharat Pay approaches you or you approach?
It will be Bharat Pay.
So anyway,
But normally.
It's a master service level agreement between me and Bharat Pay.
Okay.
Who approaches for the loan? The customer approaches. So customer को एक pop-up दिखता है. Do you want to apply for this?
When they are using to collect, okay, so they.
Effectively, it is that customer journey is as follows: that he is on the Bharat Pay app.
Borrower journey. Let's customer to my mind becomes the end customer.
So borrower journey is as such that he is on the Bharat Pay app. And while he is doing say daily settlement, searching whether actually उसको पैसा आया नहीं आया है, he will get a pop-up that hey, you are eligible for say X amount of loan. Do you want to apply?
Right.
That is where he will click he wants to apply, and that is where Bharat Pay LOS will talk to my LOS, loan origination system, and send these data to me. I will absorb these data points, have some multipliers, have some checks. Because I need
so what is this data? This data is the payment flows, how much, those kind of things.
The CIBIL scores, the various things.
But what of this you can't get through an account aggregator is what I am trying to find out.
What of this I cannot.
This information that Bharat Pay is giving, okay, is what? The flows that came into his bank account, okay? Right, that's all.
Correct.
Because GSTN flows, Bharat Pay also does not have, right? Why would you not get the same? And there is a reason I am asking you. I'm on the governing council of account aggregator, the Samati, right? So I'm just trying to understand. I'm pretty new there. Which part of this information that Bharat Pay is giving you today, you can't get directly from it going into some bank, right?
So the whole,
Please go ahead.
So the whole thesis of this is how do we use the alternate data to fund a customer?
Absolutely.
We go through the account aggregator route, which is typically that you use this bank account statement to analyze whether you are funding him.
Absolutely.
When I use the services of Bharat Pay, Phone Pay, or I have time with say Paytm, I am trying to judge a customer's credit worthiness through the alternate data.
Which is
behavior,
his payment
spending behavior,
his receipt behavior,
Yeah, that only. So say if I am a Rajiv shopkeeper sitting out of say BKC, Bharat Pay is one of the ways in which I am getting the money.
Correct.
I am getting money through cash. I am getting money through some bank transfers also.
Right.
For me as a lender, what I am doing is I am taking one part of it, which is his QR payment, which is an alternate data. I am muting all the other data for time being. I am saying कि भैया इससे इसको 1 लाख रुपया महीने का आ रहा है, which means he is technically doing more business. And basis that data, I am applying some multipliers and doing some.
ठीक है, you are using it as a surrogate. Okay, you would have some population-wide this thing कि QR constitutes this much percentage for this profile. It is this that. But is that data not available in his bank? Is what I'm.
It is available, sir. But for someone to give his bank statement, if you see,
so that comes automatically through the account aggregator.
That's point of sale lending. So that's point of sale lending. So these are not like housing loans like 75 lakhs and all that. This is 50-60,000 के. Let's say if I buy a shirt in Shoppers Stop. 1,000 रुपए का बिल आया, वो बोलता है मेरे को EMI चाहिए क्या?
That's customer. That's not Rajiv shopkeeper. That's B2C.
That's point of sale. That's point of sale. So at that point in time, nobody would actually have the data, or in his example, the NBFC wouldn't envision कि इसको अभी लोन देना है.
ये तो shopkeeper है, so right?
नहीं shop.
He's a shopkeeper. I mean, let's stick to that use case.
He's an aggregator.
I'm B2B, which is a. So the whole thesis is that I don't want to use a bank statement, and hence I'm not using the account correct.
So my interest is why you're not wanting to use the bank statement.
Because my thing is that can I use some other data points to judge the credibility of the customer in a very seamless way. So account aggregator would have some cost, would have some integration in itself, right? Again, some some I don't know exactly what is required from the customer to share his bank account to the.
But okay. So just to answer your question, why would you get it from the bank? Bank तो खुद उसको लोन दे देगा.
Why would you get it? Because it is compulsory under the account aggregator for the bank to share. Yes, so the bank has no choice.
So here the scenario is, let's say if I am not the same bank as, say if you are getting an offer from HDFC or Axis Bank, right? So Axis Bank तो खुद उसको lend कर देगा because it's a regulated entity. But let's say in that transaction, if somebody else wants to explore that opportunity, so let's say there is a option of UPI also, not through a bank. Let's say through a GPay or a Paytm, जो payment aggregator है. Now, if that aggregator wants to explore other options, let's say it gets into a partnership agreement with, let's say, another bank or NBFC. Okay, I'm going to give this option, EMI option to the customers. Do you want to have a partnership agreement with me so that you get access to these customers? Otherwise, HDFC or Axis already है line में. So if you click instead of HDFC or Kotak or Axis, you click let's say Bharat Pay. तो Bharat Pay तो आपको lend नहीं कर सकता. So he will have a back-to-back arrangement with some fourth bank or NBFC, wherein they will say, hey, this you can actually lend this to this customer. I have a data. This is a history based on an algorithm which they would have worked. Okay, this is a category ka customer hai, he will never default. This is like a deal size would be as less as 5,000 or 3,000 or whatever. 2-3 महीने में ये कर लेगा. Otherwise, conventional way you would never have access to that particular customer from the NBFC or the bank's perspective.
Okay, let's go on. Sorry.
Yeah, now main thing is a guarantee and a pass.
And the other thing it says is that the LSP, that is the fintech, has to be compulsorily a company registered under Companies Act. It cannot be so. Therefore, if it defaults on its FLDG commitments, then you can pursue IBC, etc.
And the capital requirements? Is there capital requirements on the LSP?
No. it can LSP cannot be lending, and therefore you cannot have capital requirements.
It's effectively lending by giving an FLDG, no? It's effectively lending, no?
It's not lending, it's like underwriting.
So, okay, let me reverse the question. You have a 10% FLDG based on which the bank is lending. The bank is still required to provide capital on the full 100%.
Yes, absolutely.
You have answered my question.
But there is no requirement because insurance also requires a minimum capital requirement. Underwriters also, merchant banking A, B, C, D, they have category 1, 2, 3, 4.
Agreed, but then anyways, as a bank, you have, the lending entity has its own capital adequacy requirements. Lending entity is the NBFC or the bank.
Right, but a guarantor, no? You're a guarantee.
So the guarantor has no capital requirement, and hence the lender continues to have to provide.
There is a limit. We'll come to in a couple of slides. There is a 5% limit which they have prescribed.
But then the lender has to check whether that LSP would be able to.
That's the due diligence which again they have now prescribed.
And the guarantor also has to pay the amount upfront to the regulated entity. The FLDG amount. Okay, yeah. So that way the bank is secure that the amount would be
responsible. Sorry, am I preempting a lot of slides?
No, we can keep it free flowing.
But I think you finish off the guarantee part of it, then the discussion will be more effective. So let people know the facts, what RBI wants to do.
So RBI guidelines also sets the structure of the FLDG arrangements. FLDG must be backed up by an explicit legally enforceable contract between the regulated entity and the DLG provider or the fintech in case of our example. Such contract, amongst other things, must contain following details: the extent of the DLG covered, form in which the DLG cover is to be maintained with the regulated entity, timeline for DLG invocation, and disclosure requirements. They have laid down the disclosure requirements, of course, for the regulated entity as to what is the exposure, how many loans are covered by FLDG, etc. So those they have prescribed now for the first time. Forms of DLG. So regulated entities shall accept
cash deposit, fixed deposit, bank guarantee.
Bank guarantee, yeah. So
the subordinated debts that you have created, it's a similar like structure. Your loan, you have added it over there, the one layer which is.
So even today, before these regulations came into picture, anyways, NBFCs were asking for cash deposits anyways.
And they do this back testing analysis that how much is the default probability. With that, they will decide as an first loan default. No, see, default is not going to 100%. So 10% is taking as an NPA ratio. So 7 to 8% adding up to 3% as a further cushion over there. 10% on an overall portfolio, granular portfolio. And okay, this is the first loss default. So after that, the bank's loss will start. So 10% is a first loss default which goes to the originator, underwriter, and after that 10%, if any loss comes, that is where the bank would be entitled.
So that is how it would work commercially, but as far as the provisioning is concerned, which will come to
RBI provisioning, because for me, it has to, because the entire book is in RBI is in bank's book. Right. So entire loan is in a bank's book. Okay. So bank would take it. So only
to set off this. Right?
It is only guaranteed.
It's like a credit enhancement that you have in a sense.
Similar thing structure is there. Credit enhancement with RBI come with the infrastructures, wherein infrastructure companies who are not eligible for borrowing in the market because they required a minimum AA rating. So what they did is allow the bank to give a partial guarantee. The partial guarantee is basically the same structure which is there for infrastructure, because the infrastructure pipeline of huge trillions dollar amount they have put in. So similar kind of thing. So what they did is, this is for the large projects. Now they put it and restructure it and put those guidelines here with the micro levels. So if you look at the idea is the same, that you are enhancing by keeping the gap, and then bank is protected because you're looking at the behavioral part of this. Okay, this is micro, and then your overall loan default on micro lending is around 7 to 8%, or so then you keep it as some buffer, and then just try to build as a first loan default ratio.
Yes.
There is a cap of 5% which the regulated entity has to maintain. So at any given point in time, the FLDG cover on any loan portfolio which is specified upfront shall not exceed 5% of the amount of the total of that loan portfolio. So again, this is something which they have prescribed. As far as the NPA recognition is concerned, a recognition of individual loan assets, irrespective of any DLG cover. So very clearly, in fact, in my experience, a lot of NBFCs had earlier said that, because of the credit enhancement, I would not, consider it as a part of my exposure at default for the ECL provisioning. Now they are very clearly saying that it has to be assessed at a gross level without the DLG. The amount of DLG invoked shall not be set off against individual loans, underlying individual loans. Recovery by RE, if any, from the loan on which DLG has been invoked and realized can be shared with the DLG provider in terms of the contractual arrangement. So
basically portfolio level, not an individual level.
Yeah. So in ECL model, there is no change in status quo.
The way they have explained this, Monetory, is that you will do ECL as though there is no FLDG. Okay, you will recognize the full provision, and whatever you consider as recoverable from the fintech, that you will set up as a amount which is as a separate income. So you will have the provision on the loan at a gross basis, as though it's not secured by any third party, and at the same time, in a different, within the PNL in a different geography, you will have a income which will be sitting, which is the invoice that you would have raised from the fintech. So they want to look at it separately.
Right. NPL would be higher, but then overall profitability would be there because of the other income.
So GNPA ratio would take a brunt of this, but overall bottom line should be okay.
But how the GNPA will take one? Because 10% you are taking the first default. So if anything would happen, you take a claim from the first default.
Commercially, you're right. But what now you guys are saying is that you do provisioning on a gross basis without the FLDG. And FLDG का income जो है that you consider separately.
Only thing is for the banks.
If realized.
The banks, how big is the book? That is gonna decide that is how much
for
hit
a bank
they
may not be, but for an NBFC, there are NBFCs who are more into this, FLDG kind of a model, which are actually उनका अच्छा खासा portfolio इसी में है.
उनका जो भी microfinance या these microfinancing, they already take into account that the NPA ratio is gonna be 8 to 9%, and this is all across.
नहीं ये MFI का इससे कुछ
no it is 3,000 4,000 5,000 10,000 so and it's a similar kind of, so maybe one notch above than microfinancing, but then coming at a similar level of this
Unsecured lending.
It's unsecured lending, and then over there the assumption is that I am doing multiple loans, though my NPA ratio would be higher, I have a higher margin, but then overall this is the business model which they're taking into. Now taking a 10% as in a loss given default or any this kind of guarantee, first loss default guarantee, so it will mitigate maybe 80 to 90% of your losses, and anyway the model itself is a high margin, and that will take care of, you end up with a NPA ratio which would be even lower than what you would directly originate. Those companies would be originating.
Hypothetically, you can be correct. Commercially, you are right. So commercially, since I have a FLDG protection, as an NBFC, मैं आग बंद करके दे सकता हूँ. But only from the presentation RBI ratios perspective, there can be, it can be small, it can be big, but there will be an impact on the NNPA and GNPA ratio. Treatment of DLG for regulatory capital. So capital computation, that is tier 1, tier 2 capital of exposure and application of credit risk mitigation benefit on individual loan assets in the portfolio shall continue to be governed by the extant norms. So again, this under the current regulations, you cannot actually consider the FLDG for the purpose of your tier 1, tier 2 calculation. Invocation of the DLG, the RE shall invoke DLG within a maximum overdue period of 120 days. In my experience, practically ये 90 दिन से ज़्यादा नहीं होता, but 120 is what the maximum they have prescribed, unless made good by the borrower before that date. So if there is a default, you cannot be sitting on, you have to invoke the FLDG at least in 120 days of the default.
Are you referring to as a regulated entity?
Yes. Tenor of DLG, the period for which the DLG agreement will remain in force, shall not be less than the longest tenor of the loan in the underlying loan portfolio. Disclosure requirements, they have, prescribed a few tables on the disclosure requirements. Again, these are applicable for the regulated entity. So post this guidelines come into picture, you will actually get to see, banks का कौन से banks का ज़्यादा exposure है, कौन से NBFCs का ज़्यादा exposure है. Due diligence, the regulated entities shall put into place a board approved policy before entering into any DLG arrangements. Such policy shall include at a minimum the eligibility criteria for the DLG provider, nature and extent. So the board has to approve the arrangement with the DLG. It is reiterated that any DLG arrangement shall not act as a substitute for credit appraisal requirements and robust credit underwriting standards that need to be put in place irrespective of the DLG cover. So in fact, many of you may probably have followed that Byju's financial statements for one of the years was delayed for a long time, and one of the reason was that the way from the fintech, so Byju's is of course the fintech, they accounted how they were actually, their exposure was not adequately accounted for. So from the fintech's perspective also there can be a lot of accounting implications. Such information
is actually referred to as edutech.
Yes,
not a fintech. It's edutech.
No, but I mean all these edutech, agritech, etc. They all, aggregate as fintech, right?
No, it's edutech. No?
Because it is in education sector, it's in fintech. But what it does is technically, if you are buying some course on Byju's, they give you some EMI option.
Tie up with Bajaj Finance or whoever.
So backend का वो fintech that is the thing. But yeah, categorization.
These are not legally defined terms.
Legally
Okay.
defined is LSP.
So it is an LSP.
Fintech word is defined in RBI circulars.
No, it is LSP and RE.
RE and LSP.
LSP is a loan service provider, RE is a regulated.
Okay.
So that
but RBI uses the word fintech many times.
It's used colloquially.
They don't define it as such.
Then P2P lenders, how they are different? P2P lenders, there are some lenders who, how they are different?
There is some separate licensing.
Peer-to-peer license is a separate license. So they also come under the regulated entity classification.
It's a completely different license.
Yeah, they will come in this.
So this is like you collect from the public, and there is an intermediary collects from the public, lends to the public. Okay, and RBI is dead terrified of the P2Ps, because essentially you are actually collecting deposits and lending. You are effectively doing banking. Okay. And it has lots of systemic risks, and that is why there is all those restrictions on that, right? Not more than 50 lakhs, although I believe they have relaxed it. Okay, but I was question on LSP. Sorry, who does the collection? And what is the safeguard here for
Collection is
the
done by the banks or the NBFCs, but through the platform of the LSP.
So who's responsible for complying with RBI guidelines on predatory lending? You've heard so many things about people committing suicides, okay? Because they will reach out to the contacts and share all kinds of they do social shaming and things like that. One of the LSPs does that, and LSPs need not always be these large LSPs, right? They can be very small LSPs, and if they have given an FLDG, then that's a big risk for them.
So, sir, which is why they have said that LSPs will be covered under the outsourcing arrangement guidelines of the RBI. So, the moment they get covered, then all those regulations would be automatically applicable to them.
So basically, the RE should be able to audit the LSP, all those kind of things.
One thing, Rajiv, these guidelines have come. You are the person most affected or would benefit from this RBI circular. We have all understood it. You tell us clearly what is it all about. Is it beneficial for whom? Is it harmful for whom? Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Is RBI doing too much? What is your take on it? That's very important.
Okay, I think Santosh started the conversation with that. September of 2000.
It's a businessman. I'm talking your question on a businessman. Is this from a
practitioner? Completely from a business perspective, because I work in that domain of the APD as well. See, when it came out in September of 22, it was a hard stop. Okay, so such kind of arrangements were done between RE to RE or arranged RE to LSP earlier. But then, जब RBI का circular आया, it was a panicking kind of a situation wherein कि यार ये नहीं कर सकते, regulatorily allowed. The good part about the 8 June circular is that at least they are giving some clarity, some hope. कि भैया आप start करो. जैसे Harsh sir ने पूछा, I think who is ultimately responsible for this.
So sorry to interrupt, but not just hope, but they have actually given the recognition to the FLDG. Otherwise,
no, that's true. Yes.
All the inspections that I happen to, at least in 3 or 4 clients who were doing this, RBI inspectors said that this is not legal.
No.
And we had to say, guys, you have not banned it or something. Right? This is not prohibited as well. So now they have actually, given their blessings, this is okay, but of course you have to do a lot of things. It can be tedious, but it's...
But is it good or unnecessary?
No, it is good. It's
absolutely
good. The thing where they can improve, and I hope they improve is the 5% range.
To what? 7%?
No. To at least some substantial double digit.
Double digit?
Yeah. See, technically what happens is, especially for the industries that I...
Substantial means you are seeing higher double digit?
No, not higher double digit, but at least 10-12%.
Okay.
Because in
Why?
Because when you lend in such markets, which is micro, which is small, which is basically surrogate.
I think it's there, the same technology.
And also
होना चाहिए इसमें.
Higher risk, yes.
डाउनलोड किया था उसने 3. यहाँ पे हुआ है.
How much is it?
I mean, even in
generally,
institute,
मैं भेज देता हूँ.
the selection efficiency is around 90 to 93%.
Yes.
Such kind of.
Okay, that's why I said 7-8%.
Which means on a 0%, there is 7% in DPD. And as you increase the bucket, once it goes from 30 days to 60 days to 90 days, it is very high.
Okay.
So I think that 5% would, to my mind, needs to increase.
Okay.
To some extent, but the good part is that at least they have got some blessing, some legal thing that okay, these arrangements are valid.
So you welcome it?
Oh, 100.
Okay.
So one more thing, Manojji, I would like to clarify, and probably I'm talking on his behalf. You keep repeating high risk. But think of it this way. Conventional banking, NPAs, we know what are the figures. They are quite striking. And that were despite of the bank's conventional, whatever, credit appraisal, etc. Here the thought process, at least commercially, is that the loan size, the average ticket size is very small. So inherently it's not so high risk. The fact that it's unsecured is
no, risk remains the same. It depends on whom you are giving. You are giving to a laborer or somebody on a swing machine which is unsecured.
Digital तो नहीं करेगा.
So it is high risk.
See, if it's digital, then it would be people like us, right? It will not be a laborer or it will not be like a.
Sir, even in fact, I don't know. आप जो बोल रहे हो ना, this is a laborer, they are high risk. Effectively, they are not.
They are not.
See, that is where the wrong notion across.
So we are talking about high risk from the definition of security and unsecured.
Sir,
वो भी गलत है. वो भी गलत है. सबसे ज़्यादा secured loans भी बहुत ज़्यादा ही होते हैं. आप IBC का record रखो कितना आप.
Record is okay, but ultimately the security is there.
तो कुछ माल्या का बिका क्या आपका? माल्या का बिका क्या मकान?
No, recovery happened. More than 7,000-8,000 crores have been recovered already.
But as a percentage
he lost his company. No, but 7,000-8,000 overhead has been recovered.
Here, what they are actually thinking, as far as I have understood it, is that on an average, a middle class Indian wouldn't default. It would be generally the business. Okay, yeah, एकदम गरीब farmers जो बेचारे वैसे भी लाचार हैं. Generally, the psychology that we have is we wouldn't default, and which is true. So if unsecured देते हैं and ऐसे spread है, unless there is a eventuality like a COVID, generally आप कुछ default नहीं. और इसमें actually if you look at the FLDG portfolio, उसमें defaults वैसे भी कम होते हैं. So
कितने होते हैं?
बहुत ही कम होते हैं. So and commercially think about it. If a Byju's or a fintech has to give a FLDG, वो लोग भी तो risk ले रहे हैं. तो कोई ऐसा risk क्यों लेगा?
So just to add on to Santosh's point, he means that a laborer or one working class wouldn't be a willful defaulter is what he is trying to get. And that is because
willful is the extreme case.
Yeah, so that is because this won't happen in this case because there's an escrow on the cash flows of the borrower. LSP, in this case Bharat Pay, would control all the cash flows that flow. No, all the cash flows of the shopkeeper or the end borrower would be routed through Bharat Pay. So
No, not necessarily.
QR collection. Okay,
collection.
That's up another. Yeah. So then, so that's
not Google Pay. Everything is there.
Not legal.
So there is no escrow. Escrow is a different mechanism.
It's kind of.
He will have a safeguard.
So every day he gets to deduct his loan EMI on the first charge, like on the entire collections.
But now, main thing, last important point, na? Harish, you start when you are ready. What is a guarantee? What is also they get for this providing this service for this? How profitable is it?
LSPs don't get anything directly.
No, the guarantor when somebody is guaranteeing.
LSPs, no. The fintechs, right?
Yes.
They don't get anything. What they get is I'm giving my customers an option to go for EMI.
Inbox में mumbai@ici.in Mumbai
I am giving
vc@ici.in
Just enabling.
I'm just enabling. So अगर Byju's का जो course है, जो by the way बहुत महंगा होता है, and I don't mean anything against Byju's, I'm just giving the example for the sake of simplicity. If by giving this EMI option to the parents or the students, I'm actually making my services available to lot more customers, ना मनोज? इनका अभी
They only bear the risk.
अभी कल वो नीट के रिजल्ट्स आ गए, टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया के फर्स्ट पेजेस पे सब फोटोज आ गए, राइट? So imagine, 21 lakh students appeared for that. Akash Byju, which is a subsidiary of Byju's. So, there would be a lot of those students would also be, people who otherwise could not have paid for those course fees upfront. ये 2-3 साल के courses रहते हैं. So you're making your services accessible to lot more customers. So they're not making money directly out of it, but they are actually increasing their customer base and therefore their valuation.
So there are no third-party guarantees.
I mean, the LSP is given.
LSP is the guarantor, and now bank guarantee का इन्होंने compulsory किया, so you will have a bank also guarantee.
Lot many people into proper civil.
Yeah. Correct. That's the main one. The reach increases.
So there's there's a systemic, role that these people are now
Just to
playing.
give some numbers, since I talked about Bharat Pay, Paytm, which is now a listed entity, right? If they go through the financial and this is public information, they do monthly business of about 1,200 crores under this program. Correct. Monthly business, monthly disbursement, and the average ticket size is around 30 to 50,000. Okay, and this is I am talking only of the B2B lending piece. Right. This is not B2C, which I can go on the. So the reach is increasing day by day. Bharat
B2B means to merchants,
shopkeeper, merchants. Yes. So 1,200 crores on a monthly basis.
So how much money would they make?
So see, typically what happens is there are two types of arrangement in this. One is the rental type of an arrangement, which is the traditional DSA type of an arrangement. That I give some cases, I get some upfront fee. The second one is this one wherein you cover some risk and you get upside, which means that
you get a profit share.
You get a profit share, effectively get a profit share, and that is where they are making big money.
Are they allowed to share back the repayment track record, everything?
Everything is shared. Everything. Because see, technically it is our customers who are coming to our platform. Once we process it, the loan is then between me and the borrower. But then they are helping me in collection. So I signed two agreements with them. One is the need service provider, one is the collection agent. So any which ways, if I collect the money from the person, I will make good the payment to the service provider. That is how kind of.
So Manoj,
so you are collecting. You are the NBFC.
I am the NBFC.
You are collecting.
Legally, I am to collect. Okay, but I can sign a third-party agreement as a.
If allowed, RBI guidelines, collection. See, I know, but there are lots of guidelines. It has to be through a.
They do a disclosure. Their personnel needs to be given those kind of training. They need to call within X time frame. Notices needs to be backed by us. All those things are complied by. If they help us in collecting the money, they get upside fees. So just to give you some unit economics, say for example, if the lending happens, example, at say 24%. Okay. For me, if I keep some X amount of hurdle rate, say that hurdle rate is 14%, and I take some say cover of say 14% additional cover, example. So 18% is retained by me. 24 minus 18, 6% is passed back to them, provided that I collect the money. And it happens on an automatic basis on a this thing. So
so the NBFCs and banks do make a very good hefty money out of it. So Manoj, one question I was expecting you to ask is, why wouldn't the customer just use his credit card? If these are all good credit, customers, and might as well just use a credit card rather than getting into this, this buy now pay later kind of a thing, right?
No, credit card is actually a different mechanism because the rate varies substantially.
It's much more expensive than this.
But credit card usage has actually increased in now tier 2, tier 3. Yesterday there was a business standard rather than debit card.
I want to ask you a question. Is there any home loan exchange?
What's an home loan exchange? What's an home?
From the best lenders and the loan.
So that's a very interesting idea, boss. Okay, अनिल, मतलब ये कोई ज़माने में मेरा ड्रीम था जब टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं था. Okay, today you have all the elements in place. Okay, all the elements. Okay, you can pull information. क्या क्या चाहिए आपको? You need a property exchange before you can have a home loan exchange, because you need to be able to identify. Okay, it's going to fall in place in the next 3 years, 2 to 3 years. You will have a unique number, okay, to every property, not just horizontally, even vertically. Okay, ये and पूरे इंडिया में हो जाएगा. Okay, so once you have that, okay, that's a very crucial piece in a home loan, right? that is there. Credit history पूरा available है, banking पूरा available है, okay, on pay it is available like literally in seconds. पीछे में technology available है, you can build a technology जो नहीं available है. So I would dream of a day. What a lovely suggestion, Anil. I would dream of a day, okay, when there will be a lot more LSPs. Okay, I mean this is a business opportunity, right? There will be a lot more LSPs who will provide services, okay, and then based on client consent. So Archana goes there to look for something else, okay, and Archana clicks on, do you have a home loan? We can tell you how to save 30,000 rupees instantly, okay, or 1 lakh rupees, and that is the kind of quantum that you are talking of, right? You can save 1 lakh while you are browsing, okay, and imagine she goes there, she is paying 9.2, okay, उसका डेटा पूरा अकाउंट एग्रीगेटर से आ जाएगा, ओके, उसका बैंकिंग स्टेटमेंट आ जाएगा, बचा प्रॉपर्टी, ओके, प्रॉपर्टी हुए बिना ये वर्क नहीं करेगा, ओके, सो वंस, बट प्रॉपर्टी का इंफॉर्मेशन मिलना चाहिए ना, ओके, वो यूनिक प्रॉपर्टी आइडेंटिफायर है, वो मतलब इट इज राइट नाउ अ ड्रीम, बट no, so I happen to know people who are actually involved in doing it. I mean, they walk with me every day, okay, so it is actually happening. So it's happening in Maharashtra, it must be happening in other states. So I mean, so imagine she is going there, just like you have a buy now pay later, okay, switch your home loan now and save 1.5 lakhs, okay, right now, okay. I mean, that's very much possible.
Moving on, now lending, there are many facets. Like Harsh has contributed to one facet on loan, we'll be covering many things, fintech, core lending. Rajiv will be giving us inputs in the series. Now, Harish Madaan, last week, few days ago, there was our RBI policy. The governor talked about 2,000 rupees conversion. He also talked about digital currency. So, and Harish, Director, Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, as a part of the series, one is a few minutes, share about what is happening on 2,000 rupees, and then the digital currency part of it.
So, thank you, Manoj.
So there was a request, we must cover this. So very shortly, 5 minutes on
2000 notes we'll just cover, just in 5 minutes. I will not take.
And crypto, so apna our Prakash ji will contribute on cryptos also. He has got deep experience.
Oh, great, sir. On 2000 note ban, to be honest, where it's like 3.6 lakh crore was in circulation, and where the RBI has governed that 1.8 lakh crore has come back into the system. So what is the first impact? First impact is liquidity has gone up. So liquidity has gone up by in the system. But if you look at the currency in circulation, that is only increased by 5,000. Effectively, 1.8 lakh crore come into the system. Withdrawn, the net in the system is 35. So not much. So rest is again the currency in circulation.
Yesterday, in the 40% of whatever money you get has gone back as 200, 500 notes.
So that's what I'm saying, sir. So 35,000 crore. So 50% has come back. You're saying so total amount 50% RBI governor said it is this money has come back 1.8 lakh crore. So 1.8 lakh crore. The money with the currency in circulation increase only 35,000 crore. So what is 1.8 minus 35? What is 145? 145. So 145 lakh crore is in the system. Is gone back. So the people have withdrawn for whatever the purposes, for their liquidity, for their payments. They have their own cycle, payment cycle. So for that they have withdrawn this. And impact is primarily on short-term rates, which are so it is T-bills and
can continue for 2 minutes then.
Please.
Yes. Harish Madaan, Director, Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, and a presentation on digital currency. Before that, the short thing you was talking about impact of 2,000 rupees note and the liquidity push it has given.
So liquidity in the system is, if you look at from the 2000 note bank, only increased 35,000 crore, but liquidity has shoot up to 2.4 lakh crore in by the end of last week of May and the first week which is ended on the 2nd of June. So 2.4 lakh number which came in because not only this part but equity flows are coming in, and then RBI intervention plus 80,000 crore, which is where RBI has given a dividend to the government. So all these numbers contributed to 2.4 lakh crore, but only contribution from 2000 note is just 35,000 crore. Now what is the impact? So impact is, as in to the masses there is no impact. So it is as usual, people are, and there's not lines has been seen, it's as usual. Now impact is on the money market. Money market impact is when this money came in, the bank have those surplus, and then in the short term rates, first is overnight rate which is repo has come down sharply, and it is even touched the lower bound of this the corridor, which is 6.25. But after, as an RBI policy, they have maintained that they would continue to maintain withdrawal of accommodative stance. So why to maintain this withdrawal of accommodative stance is because RBI, there is so much of liquidity in the system, and if they take out this stance, then what will happen is the rates, the longer term yield will fall, and then it will undo what the RBI has done. And secondly, also because of everything is linked, so you cannot look at in isolation what the globally what is happening, India, in the US, Europe, Canada. What they are doing is they are just raising interest rate to tame inflation. Inflation is sticky. Why this is sticky? There are supply chain issues, though they have improved, but still there are concerns, and due to that the inflation is sticky. So they don't want to lose on that part, so that is why they continue to maintain withdrawal of accommodation stance. And then what they did is they have sucked out the liquidity through the RRR, which is a variable reverse rate repo. They have come out with, though it was not very successful, but because the market participant knew that this is not temporary and the money is going to suck out from the system, because there's a GST payments and the advance tax payments which is coming out, that will also suck out so much of liquidity in the system. That is what we see that last working day the repo rate has touched.
So advance tax outflow has not impacted much.
Sir, everything impacted. So that is where the 7% is overnight. On and all, the stance is because RBI continue to don't want to lose out on the what they have done till now, since the other central banks are on a rate hike scenario, and still it is going to be a long pause. So with that, whatever the money is there in the system, try to suck out and try to maintain a neutral stance. So on the 2000 note per se, whatever has come, it has gone back, and 35,000 crore. Again, this money, whatever is there, so any excess liquidity will be there in the system, the RBI will try to suck out that part. So this is just
one important point. Our RBI governor has been selected as internationally the best RBI governor for the year. It's a major thing. Now, before we move on to the digital currency topic, I take this opportunity to welcome our senior most council member, Mr. Monetory Kaswala, and the past chairman, and who has really encouraged all the participants a lot to see maximum number of topics are carried out in the roundtables, and we have as many roundtables without limit actually, and also always encouraging us to participate as speakers in large conferences. A few words from you.
Thank you. So all credit for this BFSI group goes to Manoj ji and Archana and Anupam for being the convener, co-convener last 2 years. I think it has really revived and it has been very active. So thanks to all of you. See, what we can do is at WRC we can only provide the opportunity or facilitate, but ultimately we need someone to drive. and we could add during last year a lot more study groups on different subjects. So IBC is doing well, RERA is doing exceedingly well, cooperative is doing well, and there are opportunities everywhere. It depends on people's interest. Some people only work in cooperative, that way. But now, at least last year and this year, we are seeing that wherever the convener, co-conveners are strong, those groups meet also regularly. Number of people attending are also good, and active discussions are happening. So really good, and thanks to each and every one for coming and attending the programs. That is important, because without members coming, it becomes difficult. And in the hybrid mode or in virtual mode, it was getting difficult. But now again, I think people are back to physical. And see, the study group, difference between a study group and a study circle. Here we want to take a topic and encourage everyone to speak. So we should also have some form of what do you say, a chocolate for whoever speaks or whatever, that way. But I would encourage everyone to speak. That is important. Take a topic, discuss, give your point of view, what is happening in your organization. So everyone learns from it. That is how. Otherwise, like monologue will happen. Of course, experts will talk about the subject, but if you have any doubt, you have this opportunity to clarify your doubts, also speak to them. So good, lot of interesting stuff happening. People are talking about de-dollarization now. So I don't know how
It's a part of a series we have discussed before several times, and we'll be discussing, always covering latest developments on that. Forex, de-dollarization, digital currency.
So I've covered a lot on de-dollarization, written articles on that. This is something we'll see the next crisis in next 2 years, where go out everything and we'll see something new.
So my God.
The Indian rupee
Nostradamus
So rupee is we are Indians, so we love to listen about rupee. But if you look at the standing of rupee, it's less than 1% globally. So where the dollar is 60%, where we are, I think that is where to be looked at. But yes, history teaches us as in when Europe conquered India, Europe was the GDP and everything was nothing compared to India, but they conquered. So it doesn't mean that those who are at top, they cannot be conquered. It has happened, and history is like this only. And this is a transition phase. In fact, today morning I had a session with my alumni structure with IM. We discuss about this. This is a transition phase, and the war is already on. And after war, the structure comes. It has happened after World War II. It was peaceful that time because UK was exhausted, and US peacefully took over everything and set up their own system, World Bank or whatever the system that we are seeing it. Now again this transition is going on. How peaceful it will be, that has to be seen. But right now the war is on.
War, not only military, this is the geopolitical,
everything.
Financial war. Basically, that will happen in de-dollarization.
War is war. Now the war meaning is not what we see in the book. The war is, sir, war is what you listening in the paper is not covering the entire war. You have to read experts what they're talking about. What you listen in the war is a war which you see the conventionally. Conventionally, what is happening? The 1-2 countries are fighting. What about space war? It's coming in paper. In Norway, there's an undersea cable has been cut.
Harish, can we start this?
Yeah,
definitely. I want to, digital currency.
Before you start with your presentation, I just wanted to
short presentation.
I wanted to request the group on 2 things. One, see, like on the banking committee also, the BFSI committee as we call, we want to do more programs. And programs could be 3 hours on a Saturday morning 10 to 1, Friday evening 5 to 8, 2 speakers, 1.5 hours each.
Hybrid?
Or maybe physical.
Only physical. What about hybrid?
See, the moment you say hybrid,
Demand for hybrid.
Manoj, what happens is the moment you say hybrid, no, 10 people will register for physical and 100 will register for hybrid. And 5 o'clock the speaker is there at 4:45 and physical में तो 3 लोग रहेंगे तो चालू कैसा करेगा और speaker के सामने 3 लोग बैठे खाली तो इसलिए either virtual or physical. We are ready. Same topic you first keep physical, whoever comes. Second time you keep virtually, no? With a different speaker. I don't have a problem. But see, like a couple of things which I wanted to cover, and maybe for the whole group, because all of you, if you are there from the same field, one is like there are so many regulatory requirements in a banking, fintech company, NBFC, and again insurance, life, non-life both. So in this whole space, if we can cover on the risks, controls, maybe regulations, or whatever is required, which that industry guys would want to come in and hear, I think we can do sessions on those. 3 hours also is okay. एक अगर खाली आपने banking पे भी कर लिया, where someone a CEO or CFO of a bank comes, he like lays the foundation and gives a landscape or something for the first 30 minutes, then one speaker for 1 hour and then a panel discussion. That is also okay with us. That is one. Second, maybe like in one of the sessions, if we can cover, see, a lot of our CAs, they themselves invest in stock market. And a lot of them in practice keep on giving advice to the friends and relatives. And what happens is like Poonawala FinCorp. I was listening to an interview of other Poonawala, and he said like Poonawala FinCorp will become the next Bajaj FinCorp. I'll give them tough times type. Okay, but will he achieve that? Will he not achieve that? Will the share prices go like that? Should people invest so much in that type of an organization? So like, sure, we'll be doing a little. I'm sure we cannot predict what will happen, but at least we'll be able to give all the cautious this thing or give some view to our guys so that they don't falter and don't lose their whole lifetime hard-earned money and they don't go and give wrong advices to their clients. Banking, fintech, the whole BFSI space is like abhi bahut zyada and like everyone has got that those shares in their portfolio. Should they, should they not? How do they cover the risk? What do they do? Maybe a session on that as well. We can bring some market expert also, but someone from the banking side also can add to that or something like that. So
we have a huge talent on that. We just keep on discussing actually. Latest regulations on capital market which came 2 days ago, we are going to discuss.
Sure.
Which came last week, we are discussing it. And here also charts. We have ready actually on the with the laptop. On this laptop, we showed a chart of Poonawala FinCorp or Reliance or Adani Enterprises. Actually, you see the past 1 month to 10 years to 30-year history, plus forecast, technical funda. In fact, this is a roundtable. We specialize techno funda both, not one. And based on data with disclaimers. Most important is disclaimer.
We should do this for the larger audience. Whatever you discuss here, I would request if you can do it for the larger audience also. And so many good speakers, Santosh, Harish, Harji. So like, I think you guys should plan anything. Just give me and we'll do the session.
Yeah, we have more than 40 speakers.
Sorry.
And growing.
Thank you for your encouraging words.
Our young speaker, Rajiv, he is from FinTech and with Edelweiss a few years, and now he's going to do a presentation on co-lending in the part of the series. Even the short one will do half an hour, but with that there's a lot of discussion for another half an hour.
A big investment banking session chalega niche. If you go into the auditorium, you will see like everyone, not a single guy is of our age. Means the youngest whoever is here now, usse young people is sitting there in the auditorium.
How many are there now?
130.
Okay.
130. All 2-3 years, everyone wants to be in investment banking, and they will come to here. And the panelist and the moderator is also like half my age. Less than half my age.
So the best way to find out which profession.
10 times more capacity than the speakers in the auditorium. In terms of expertise, but we'll do it as often as you want.
So, with your permission.
Yeah, sure. I want him to see also the type of data and on digital currencies.
So central is the topic that I'm going to cover is CBDC as an alternative payment mechanism, and why the CBDC is coming up, because that is very important, because nowadays we are listening more about CBDC and the cryptocurrencies. So what it is going and where the future is what is lying ahead in respect to bitcoins or cryptos, what kind of risks they are bringing to the system, to the economy, how they are harmful as a cryptos, and how the CBDC will counter. So that is where we will just discuss over here. So the very first is I'm just covering why the cryptocurrencies are rising and what is the reason behind this, and then some of the risks, and then what CBDC is and why it's coming up as a new payment mechanism. So nowadays all we are talking about crypto investors are considering it as another asset class, and they want to part some part of their portfolio as an assets, as in a crypto, and it is even considered as an alternative to gold. Why it is alternative to gold? So people saying, okay, this is, if you look at in 2020 when the crisis came, gold has gone up, but not as much as it should go up. But crypto has risen a lot. That is what I try to show in the chart. So cryptos has gone up, and again with the SVC bank default, again the cryptos has started rising. This is where again rekindle the fears that the people do not have trust in the existing banking system. That is what it is indicating, and why they do not have trust in the existing banking system. That is important. That is where after 2008 banking crisis, people are saying that, oh, this banks are not safe because they are playing with the people's money, and the series of default that has happened. So that is where the crypto has started, where the crypto's founder, and then it slowly has grown up, and the fancies where the money should not be controlled by the banks, by the central banks, but it's people money, people will themselves manage it. That is a concept which I say we are libertarian, and libertarian, we believe in liberty. We don't want to control by the banks, because bank itself is making a lot of money on our, and then still we are running the risk of default, and then crisis has happened. So that is where the genesis of this. And since central banks have used the entire banking system money which is there in the present system, they have misused this. How it is being misused by the central bankers? They're saying, oh, look at the liquidity system. So over the period when since this fiat money came in, which is in 1971, before that it was pegged to the gold, de facto pegged to the gold dollar, and then after that it's a free fiat money backed by nothing, and then you see there is a glut of money infused by the central banks over the period, and in the pandemic you see the peak over there. This is so. Now this is where creating is it creating demand, or is it creating GDP growth? No. Why this? I just take you. The GDP growth is average in US is 2% on and all. So what is doing it? It is stimulating money, is creating inflation and asset bubble, and that is why we're seeing the cycles of asset bubbles. Every few years there's a bubbles that is coming up. So that is what we're saying, the central banks is misusing this entire system, and that is a theory by these libertarians. So where they have come up with the cryptocurrencies. What is cryptocurrency? Cryptocurrency is a private digital currency which uses cryptography to secure transactions. So people themselves are mining and maintaining and managing it. I'll not go into the technology part. I'm not a technology expert, but I understand the economic impact of this. That is what I'm going to discuss here. So it's a digital payment system which works peer-to-peer and enable anyone to make payments without intermediation of banks. So we don't need banks. So it's my money. I decide how this money would be used, not banks, not regulators. So that is where the idea. Now look at the basic concept. Again, the payment system is not backed by anyone. It is not backed by, it's not a sovereign. So we all are banker, we all are CA professional. It means what it is putting to us? Credit risk. Very simple aspect. Someone, if you use it, I'm using your debt instrument. What I'm using it? You are backing it, right? So it means I'm taking credit risk on you. We all are the bank notes which central bank issuing. What we are doing is we are taking a risk on the central bank, government of India at the end, because government of India is the owner of the Reserve Bank of India, and then say we are taking the government of India risk, right? So in note it is a promissory note, right? So the promissory note in digital term will become a digital currency, the same concept. When it is issued by the private player, we call it now where the money is a promissory note issued by the, then we are prone to the not sovereign risk but to credit risk. So this is the kind of risk that we are running. Now here we don't know who is backing it. Do we know? I know you are issued. I'll go and take over your properties or say claim on you. But in crypto, who is the owner? Everyone is owner, no one is owner. Peer-to-peer management, right? So that is kind of risk that is coming up. So we all are taking a credit risk in the system. If anything go worse, which has happened in now US, where the exchange default, what happened? Everything gone. Whom to claim for? No one. What are the regulation? Nothing. What is the KYC norms? Nothing. Money is being siphoned. No control. Right? Technology is being used. So to control technology, you have to use technology. So that is where the CBDC is coming. So counter that. Otherwise, it is not possible, practically possible. Okay. So what is this? So there are many threats. So I'll just focus our discussions just on 4 parts: credit risk, which I've just briefly mentioned, threat to present payment mechanism, and a conduit for money laundering, making monetary policy redundant. These are 4 points which I'll just cover it here. When talking about the credit risk, it is neither backed by, when we're talking about currency, what is currency? Which have a store value. That's the very first parameter. What is the second parameter of that? We can exchange, transact with that, right? This is, and it is backed by sovereign generally, because that is how we look at, that is where we have a trust. Now it is neither backed by sovereign nor by any commodity. Okay, store value, don't know. Can you transact? No, because it's fluctuating. How you will decide the prices? It is not fulfilling the parameters of money. What it is purely determined by demand and supply. Okay, so what we are doing? Who is backing it? I don't know. So we are in the system bringing, apart from sovereign, a credit risk. Whom I'm taking credit risk? Even I don't know. We have discussed so far the credit. Where, what kind of credit risk I'm undertaking? Are we doing due diligence? Think. All is credit. We are doing. Second, threats to payment, present payment mechanism. What we are doing is, the systems are not interoperable. UPI, we have created a masterpiece which world is looking at us. We are talking about a part of India stack. What is digital currency? These cryptos are going to do. Every currency is different. You cannot transact one currency with another currency. They are not, system not talking to each other. What government and RBI is doing? Making a system which is talking to each other. What in China, they have Alipay, Tennis and all, they have their wall gardens, they are trying to break it. But what this is doing, these are another wall gardens, silos we are creating, so they are not talking to each other. So it means, if this is allowed to grow, what will happen? Too many currencies, how you will price? You will have one currency, other person have another currency, how they will talk to each other, how the bank will function. It will create, we will then come up with a multiple currency in a country. How you will manage? How the bank will give a loan? Someone is required to regulate. Nothing. That is another risk to the present payment mechanism. Money laundering. Peer-to-peer. Easy to transfer funds for terrorists. Easy to transfer funds for illegal activities. That is why it is being more used across the globe. People say there are KYCs, but we all know what kind of KYCs. Who is controlling it? So those who are managing these technologies, they also know what is happening and they're taking prior position and then they're doing it. Why I'm saying? Because one of my friend is running a company who is doing this. He knows beforehand what is happening. So who is controlling it? No one.
This is because they don't want to control it. There's a reason behind it.
So there's no one to control. So that is, you don't want to control. That is another risk, because what is the standard?
After it grows, then you start regulating it.
You have if you have in your pocket 5 currencies, how you will transact? One person accepting this currency, another person. How you go to the bank and take a loan? Which currency you want to take a loan? Can you run with the 5 currency? How the central bank will run a monetary policy? Can you run this? They are running. They are creating supply, reducing supply to manage inflations. Then how it will happen? How the central bank will run the monetary policy, right? So these are kind of risks which cryptos are bringing. I'm talking just 4. There's so many. Okay, so I'm not talking on those because to keep our discussion very clear. So what is just on the first part? What's concluding here is, because trust is falling, that is why the cryptos has come up. But since the crypto has come up, it is bringing a lot more risk in the system. So it's necessary to control that. That is why all the central banks across the globe, except US. Why US? Because gold, or if you look at the commodities, they are priced in dollar. Okay, that is why dollar is used globally. For that, we need to, as a de-dollarization process, that is a part of this. So this dollar, if you start using crypto and the pricing currency is dollar, it means you are going to use dollar more. So even dollar will be more stronger. So they are behind. US is far behind in CBDC. China, Russia, UK, India, they all are ahead of it. US is far behind. They are not coming. They are saying they are allowing. Over there's a crypto exchange is there. Bitcoin exchange is there. That's called stable coin, which is pegged to dollar, which is like pegging your stable coin value to the dollar. That is what is happening. But it is bringing risk to the smaller economies and emerging countries. Larger economies will benefit, but smaller economies will wipe out if it is allowed to grow. That is why central banks across the globe are putting restrictions and then just trying to stop this. They are, if SVC crisis would not have happened, cryptocurrencies, they would make sure that cryptocurrency would have been died. But again, it has revived because banking sector is not safe. But central bank will make sure that they will put rest in peace, because otherwise the job of monetary policy experts would be very So now look at what is CBDC. CBDC is nothing. It's a fiat currency that you are holding right now. It is in digital note. It's become a CBDC. But the impact and how it works is absolutely different. It will change entire landscape. The way that you think, the way you transact, way the bank function, way the monetary policy function, way the financing will happen. Digital, your digital security, your payment security, your transmission mechanism, everything will change. It is a transformation across. That is what it will bring. So the foremost thing is because it is backed by the central bank. Function of what we see monetary, the money function is value, store value. We can transact, right? That is where it is having, and backed by the central bank, liquidity, safety, all parameters is fulfilling, right? So this is where the CBDC have a benefit of technology and backed by trust together. Okay, it has negative impact too. Okay, negative, we'll just leave it for today. We will not do it, discuss today, because negative impact has to be controlled, and negative impacts are after implementation, when it's become a wider use, then people will cry for negative side of this also, where some of the libertarians are against implementation of CBDC because of privacy and a lot of concerns over there. So that is where then discussion involved. We look at the positive side, we look at the negative side, try to control negative and try to grow positive. So that is how we look at it. So the very first is, I will just, before going why the CBDC has come up, just want to give you one terminology, which is dollarization of economies. So dollarization of economies means when your country currency will not be used for the pricing, someone else's currency will use. It's not dollar, it can be euro, by any currency. That is called your economy is getting dollarized. When dollarized, what will happen? You will lose the monetary authority. Because your policies, your currency is not there. What you will do? Nothing. What the other central bank will do, that is what is going to impact you. Like in Europe, each currency, each of the union member, they are using the foreign currency. Foreign currency is euro. Because there is one currency and all are member to that. What is happening, and if Germany is a producing nation and Italy is a consuming nation, Italy has a different problem, Germany has a different problem, but they have to come up with a common solution which will not workable for both, and then it's like a dollarization. So their economy is completely dollarized. It is, they are using foreign, and some people, I think there are a lot of, when talking about de-dollarization, BRICS economy, BRICS currency, nothing gonna work, because euro we have seen the experience is blunder. They cannot even they cannot stay together, but cannot even set apart. So it's a similar situation with Europe. If they stay together, then it's a problem. If they are apart, then it's also a problem. So they have to just continue with that. And the result is Europe is gonna collapse, which is, we are seeing it is on right path. Protection from, very first thing is what CBDC will do. It will protect economy from becoming dollarized, because they will come up with a mechanism which is technology driven, and many of the economies has already started with the small economies. Barbuda, Nigeria, they have said CBDC is used over there.
So, Harish, sorry to interrupt, but can you give a specific use case why I would use a CBDC? I mean, because so far I cannot think of how is it different from any other electronic mode of payment.
CBDC is kind of money issued by the central banks.
Right.
Now, what money are you using right now is issued by the bank.
Right.
So when you're using the money with the account, if the bank collapses, your money will go.
Okay, so you are explaining from a macro. Can you explain from micro?
So
for me as a consumer,
right?
Okay, can you please explain? I don't understand बैंक everything. So कौन से पेमेंट के लिए मैं CBDC यूज करूँगा और क्यों करूँगा?
CBDC is simple.
थोड़ा हिंदी में समझाओ, because English हम लोग we use too many jargon. Okay.
Absolutely.
I've been waiting for this. Somebody needs to explain to me. I have not understood so far कि why मैं क्यों यूज करूँगा?
Okay. आपके लिए आपके जेब में 5 रुपए पड़े हैं, ठीक है? दिस इज हार्ड कैश. हार्ड कैश में आपने रिस्क किसके ऊपर लिया? बैंक का.
मेरे पास फर्क भी मुझे मालूम भी नहीं है. मेरे पास 5 रुपए हैं.
आपको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, ठीक है? अभी यही 5 रुपए आपके डिजिटल में है, सेम है 5 रुपए, क्योंकि वो 5 आप डिजिटल में रखो या फिर आप रखो इसमें नॉर्मल में, ठीक है? एज अ लेमैन उसको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ने वाला, बिल्कुल नहीं फर्क पड़ने वाला. तो टेक्नोलॉजी इम्पैक्ट में, बिकॉज इंडिया में यूपीआई ने ऑलरेडी इतना गेम चेंज कर दिया है.
एग्जैक्टली.
ओके, सो फॉर अस, हम लोग को यही नहीं समझ, हम वी आर नॉट एबल टू डिफरेंशिएट बिटवीन डिजिटल पेमेंट एंड डिजिटल करेंसी.
एग्जैक्टली.
नाउ as a consumer, as a retailer, you may not impact. You will not find a difference because for you currency is currency, either bank money or other money. It doesn't. But when it's get to the corporate level, okay, where you would able to transact immediately, when right now you go to the corporate and you do RTGS, it takes 2 to 3 hours at least to execute entire transaction, the large value transaction, where you have to go and tell that you have
but
to.
But you won't be able to do CBDC. You are not allowed more than 2 lakhs. You will not be allowed.
Sir, right now is a test mode.
Even it. That is the Income Tax Act. You will have to change because CBDC is still currency.
Sir,
right? It is still cash.
Sir, these are the pilots when this wholesale will be applicable. So we're talking about not now. Okay. Right now is nothing.
One minute.
We're talking about future.
एक minute. So what is the use case? For corporate, you have a use. He has a use.
Can I just?
I mean,
try to bring.
बहुत ज़्यादा macro हो रहा है. Frankly, मुझे micro समझ.
अब क्या मेरे ज़माने में physical share certificate होते थे.
हाँ जी.
That got converted into demat account.
हाँ जी.
I think something similar will happen.
But वो तो already हो चुका है. मेरा ये point है.
तो currency में similar thing होएगा.
नहीं हुआ है, क्योंकि आपके पास बैंक आप बिकॉज आप बैंक
एक मिनट, अगर मुझे फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि ये पेटीएम में पड़ा है कि बैंक से मैं कर रहा हूँ कि मैं सीबीडीसी कर रहा हूँ
सर, जिसके
तो मैं सीबीडीसी क्यों
I'll just answer this.
करूँगा.
See what is happening, right now this whole digital currency would be on the blockchain, right? Now what is happening? Just hear it out. So your supply chain financing, your everything would be, the government can at the end. So suppose now I have as a corporate, I have say suppose 1 lakh rupees, right? I want to construct a building. I'll give it to my contractor, right? A contract where I need to make a payment. Now, when it comes to a digital currency, the whole trail till the last supplier, the contract to the contractor to subcontractor to the last person, the whole thing is the banker can go to the trail. So suppose if I want to keep a lien, I want to give a loan, everything. It is possible at the click of one button. You don't have to then get into the securitized, I'm going to say the lien or the property. Everything would be digitally, which can transform the whole way you see things.
Sir, that
you want a use case, no?
But sir, that is possible in the UPI also.
No, how it is possible?
Not UPI. Okay, sorry.
How it is possible?
These two concepts.
एक मिनट. This is currency. This is currency. It's a.
You want a use case, right?
Sir, मैं currency कब use?
आपको use case चाहिए.
मैं हाँ एक मिनट. तो अगर मेरी तरफ से समझा सको, I'm very interested. That's why I have stayed behind.
अभी आप समझ लो कि आप एक कॉन्ट्रैक्टर हो.
मेरी तरफ से.
अच्छा ठीक है.
मेरी तरफ से समझाइए. ये मेरे पास 500 का नोट है.
ठीक है.
ओके. मुझे हरीश जी को 500 रुपए देने. ओके. मैं 2 तरीके से दे सकता हूँ. मैं हरीश जी को पूछूंगा कि भाई आपका यूपीआई हैंडल दे दो, ये दे दो, मेरे पास पैसे हैं, मैंने दे दिए. ओके. या मैंने ये 500 रुपए उनको हैंड ओवर कर दिए. राइट. 500 रुपए हैंड ओवर करने में मुझे ये नहीं पता करना कि वो कौन है, हरीश जी कौन है, मुझे पता भी नहीं करना. ओके. एज लॉन्ग एज आई एम सेटिस्फाइड कि ये 500 रुपए इनको देने हैं.
क्यों देने हैं?
कोई भी कारण होगा, उन्होंने मांगे मुझे.
तो एक देने तो लोन दे रहे हो
नहीं,
किसी
I'm taking
आपने सर्विस लिया हुआ है, कुछ तो बताओ आप.
हाँ मैं बोल रहा हूँ. ओके. हाँ एक मिनट. हाँ तो मैं बता रहा हूँ. एक
आपको जो एजेंट
मुझे राह चलते मिल गए. ओके. मैं जानता नहीं इनको.
डोनेशन देना है.
मैं जानता नहीं इनको. ये बोले क्या है मेरे पास ना पैसे नहीं है, आप दे सकते हो क्या? ओके. तो मैंने उनको गिफ्ट दिया. ओके.
चलो ना
गिफ्ट दिया, वापस नहीं चाहिए, दे लो
ना. ठीक है.
ओके. चलेगा. कौन है नहीं मालूम. ओके. नाउ दिस इज द यूज केस.
हाँ ठीक है.
ओके. वेयर डज सीबीडीसी कम इनटू दिस?
तो आप 2 तरीके से पेमेंट कर सकते हो. एक है डिजिटली में डिजिटल पेमेंट और डिजिटल करेंसी दोनों अलग है. Let us differentiate that.
That is what I am trying to understand.
Just give me I just देखो 500 रुपए है ना, तो 500 रुपए का आपको फर्क पड़ता है ना इनको.
मुझे पड़ता है, मुझे दे देना वापस.
इसको अगर मैं 500 करोड़ कर दूं,
हाँ,
तो बोलो किस. Now we will understand the bank. You are keeping money. If you have your limit is only 1 lakh तक आप insured हो.
I'll tell you what is happening now. Yesterday I got a call from a client who is doing retailing. He is doing
यार
and he is getting jobs and extending on their so there they कहाँ से cash बहुत अच्छे right. So currently that UPI is not actually working for them because that some way some accounting problems are coming. I think in that case digital currency ऑफिस वाला बोलेगा यहाँ मैंने 15 रुपए का दिया, वो ट्रांसफर कर देगा उसको.
to make cash payment further.
सर वो इसके सब आपकी एफिशिएंसीज हैं, मैं एफिशिएंसीज पे बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ। एफिशिएंट
काम करो ना, आंसर मिल जाएगा।
एफिशिएंसी, ये एफिशिएंसीज हैं इससे जो आएंगी सिस्टम में, जो आपने बोला। डिफरेंस क्या है, एक में आप सेंट्रल बैंक पे रिस्क ले रहे हो, यूपीआई के केस में आप बैंक के ऊपर रिस्क ले रहे हो। रिटेल को किसी को कुछ नहीं फर्क पड़ता है, क्योंकि उसका तो इंश्योर है 1 लाख रुपए तक का, आपको क्या फर्क पड़ता है क्या होगा। लेकिन जब कॉर्पोरेट आएगा, रिलायंस आया है, उसको हर बैंक को लिमिट देता है। वो जब वो लिमिट देगा बैंक को, तो अगर वो देगा कि मैं, अच्छा ये है आपका यस बैंक, ये है आरबीएल, इसको मैंने दिया, मैं इसके पास 50 करोड़ से ऊपर पैसा नहीं रखूंगा। लेकिन अगर उसके पास सीबीडीसी है, ठीक है, और दूसरा बैंक आया आईसीआईसी, उसे बोले मेरे पास इसको 1000 करोड़ का लिमिट है, so you are writing so the other is a CBDC, you are taking a sovereign risk. Okay, second part, when you are executing the transaction with the bank, it will take there is a risk credit, there is the transaction as a system perspective। सब लोग बेचारे पानी पी पहले वो बैंक के पास रात को 12 बजे आरबीआई बैंक कितने का होगा, आपने कैश ये नोट दिया 500 का, मैं आउट, मेरी ट्रांजेक्शन कंप्लीट। So there is a complete, when the transaction happen, this is a complete finality of the transaction. At a retail level, you don't bother because आपका 1000 1 लाख में इतना impact नहीं आता, but when it comes to corporate level, it makes impact. Credit risk in the system per se reduces.
नहीं, that is मैं क्या बोल रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ, इनका यूज केस चाहिए, यूज केस के हिसाब से अपन डिस्कस करेंगे ना।
I think we can, because we have already overshot the time. Yeah. We can keep it for the next time.
I think लेकिन थोड़ा कवर कर देंगे।
Next time कर लेते हैं।
Sure.
Yeah.
Sir, I just want to
then we'll do exhaustively
for you.
Yeah.
And to answer Harsh actually.
And then we'll do. Some updates you can do for 5 minutes. Not LODR, any other updates.
पहले इनको कंप्लीट करने दीजिए, इम्पोर्टेंट है ये, वेरी इम्पोर्टेंट।
Right, your query के लिए ना, सर ये जो हुआ है CBDC is nothing that Bitcoin का जो peer लोग एक दूसरे को यूज करेंगे, उसके लिए इन्होंने प्रपोज किया था कि हम ये डिजिटल।
सर और एक और यूज
केस पे आएंगे।
सर एक यूज केस जो
क्या है, मतलब दैट इज व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू, मुझे नहीं आज तक नहीं समझ में आया।
आपको यूज केस एक जो बताएंगे ना, तो आप खुद ही बोलोगे कि कल के कल इम्प्लीमेंट करो।
नहीं सर, एक यूज केस जो मैंने पढ़ा था, डायरेक्टली एज रिटेल कस्टमर्स आपको और मेरे को शायद इम्पैक्ट नहीं होगा, फायदा नहीं होगा, बट गवर्नमेंट्स के लिए क्या पड़ेगा, गवर्नमेंट सब्सिडी देती है, आज फार्मर्स को दे रही है, 500 करोड़ दिया फर्टिलाइजर खरीदने के लिए, तो आज गवर्नमेंट बैंक ट्रांसफर कर देती है, वो फार्मर वो 50 उसके खाते में 1 लाख है, उसका वो कहीं पे भी यूज कर सकते हैं, नॉट जस्ट फॉर फर्टिलाइजर्स। गवर्नमेंट को पता नहीं उसने कहाँ यूज कर दिया, बट आज अगर डिजिटल करेंसी देते हैं, प्रोग्रामेबल होती है, उसमें मुझे पता चलेगा वो करेंसी वो एग्जैक्टली
पर्पस के लिए ही यूज कर सकते हैं, बिना कोई पर्पस यूज
वो कहाँ पे जा रहा है। तो अगर वो फार्मर पे करना चाहते ये टेबल खरीदने के लिए, तो वो अलाउ ही नहीं होगा, वो पैसे से आप टेबल खरीद ही नहीं पाओगे, आप फर्टिलाइजर के अलावा कहीं और से कुछ खरीद ही नहीं पाओगे। तो गवर्नमेंट का जो सब्सिडी है वो सही जगह यूज होगा। या
कूपन, दैट्स कॉल्ड अ कूपन, इट्स अ फूड कूपन, इट कुड बी
करेक्ट हाँ, मतलब इट्स प्रोग्रामेबल,
डिफरेंट यूजेस।
आप है ना यूज केसेस है ना, अगर अपन इधर से गिनेंगे ना तो रात सुबह तक हो जाएगा, इतने यूज केसेस है। अब
So we are doing
बहुत सारे यूज केस है।
Okay, so second is, so I just given as a protection, so now because I have not covered those aspects. Why I have not covered? Because of paucity of times. In fact, I'm writing articles on this as a complete on what are the, as in say where it is be used and what is the motive behind this.
Yes.
Where financial inclusion, monetary policy, banking sector, all these where it is getting linked. So one just kept as a very overall view of this. The next part is dollar. See. This exploration of CBDC as an alternative payment mechanism, as in we have already discussed some of those cases. Now the entire world is exploring. It's not only about entire world. Even 95% of the global GDPs, the countries, they are all exploring and set to go. How it is going to change? Why they are going it? First is dollarization is one of the biggest concept, because the Russia and China together, they are they are far ahead and they're just trying to launch it with the use of technology so that they can dethrone dollar out of the system and then bring it a system where it will help to the SWIFT right now mechanism is used for the terrorism as is the weapons. So what they're using, they're putting sanction on Iraq, wherever they feel this is not compatible with their philosophy, they put a sanctions. Now with this, with CBDC, it's all transaction happen central bank to central bank. There's no record of SWIFT. This is called the multi exchange. Yes, this is called the MCBDC. So what will happen? The international transaction, which is again the future of this is a concept, okay, where the way that you are doing UPI payments, that similarly there's a platform where it's a build which is called MCBDC. Already pilots is happening, and the international payments happen like this, and it is 24/7. Not like a time, 24/7, all payments happen and instant payment happen. That is where it's a use case, and that is where a lot of studies, MCBDC pilot is there. These all reports are related from this. The Bank of International Settlement is a part of this, and the pilot is successful, and slowly over the period these will launch, because to making people into confidence and then bringing technology, changing the system, it will not happen overnight. It is a process, and process would be followed as we see. So definitely there are certain negative side of it, this also, which is a lot of being talked about, like privacies and all, because if you can program, then tomorrow you have money, but the government, you are too much vocal about the government, and government says, okay, I want to control this, they will freeze, and CBDC program, your entire money on this name is cancelled. Now you become zero next day.
So in which case, I mean, this is some, you can call it a prepaid wallet with limited use, etc. How will it be an alternative to crypto? The whole idea of crypto was to take away the control from the government. So government के against में कैसे होगा ये?
We can discuss
in detail the use
It is being patronized by the government, so therefore it will never be against the government. That's the whole intent.
I know. Examples you can do, and with this, Mr. Prakash Palecha, you have experience in crypto. You have. I would like you to share your thoughts on the point raised by Mr.
Okay. I don't understand crypto.
He has a crypto experience, so he just answer the issues raised by.
So actually, if I have 5 minutes.
Yes, you do.
Okay, so 5 minutes.
Practical
issues. Harish has said so beautifully, sir. Let me just ask a few questions only.
Formally, we close it. There is a instructions. Formally, we close now at 6 o'clock. Okay. Maybe 2 minutes, and then if after we close formally, we will can interact outside the hall.
I'll just
on any auditions.
Please, if any question, and even you can reach out to me.
Later. So that's okay. Just you share, Mr.
Okay,
and you can remove this.
So in about 5-6 minutes, I need to ask a few questions only.
Show the first slide if you want.
Yeah. So
carry on.
Blockchain आया था.
चलेगा.
Blockchain has. What is blockchain? What is Bitcoin? Is internet money on the internet? There is no physical currency. That is blockchain. ये बहुत dangerous है. And dangerous इसके लिए है क्योंकि it has no control over the central government. अभी this goes back to 1945 पे हम आएंगे. आपने de-dollarization को कहा. I just ask very fast a few questions. 1945 में क्या हुआ था? जापान ने किसको अटैक किया था? यूएस बहुत बड़ा हमला किया था. अमेरिका ने फिर क्या किया था? एटम बॉम्ब न्यूक्लियर बॉम्ब लगाया. इसको देखकर 195 कंट्रीज आज जो है स्टॉप कर गए. और उस वक्त जो डीडॉलराइजेशन में आपने बताया, कंट्रीज चौंक गए थे. टिल 1945 वी वर एट द गोल्ड स्टैंडर्ड. उतना नोट छापो जितना आपके पास गोल्ड है. ये देखकर एक्चुअली क्या हुआ, कंट्रीज ने चोरी की. सबने इतना नोट छापे जितना गोल्ड था. Did the countries, 195 countries, print as much currency as much as gold was there? So what happens? We go and we print currencies and there was loss of gain. तो 1945 में क्या हुआ, लोग कंट्री डर गए और आप चलिए सब 1945 में सोचिए जापान को मार खाई है, 2 बॉम्ब लगे हैं. and सब लोग डर गए हैं. There is no currency has no value. There is Bitcoin also has no value. But that time currency में gold का backing था ही नहीं. झूठ बोला. Don't print करते गए. तो trade stopped. And countries got said हम oil कैसे खरीदेंगे, ये कैसे करेंगे, international shopping कैसे करेंगे. So what happens? There is a conference and US को बोला जाता है कि तुम्हारी currency हम मानेंगे. और वो कॉन्फ्रेंस ने पूरे दुनिया का सत्यानाश का शुरुआत हो.
But Mr. Prakash, point is, very limited time.
That's why 2 minutes.
No, that's okay. 2 minutes. We didn't cover what you were told. Your experience on crypto, because there was a lot of things trading on crypto which RBI has updated. Your experience.
Crypto is a very dangerous and a very bad form of exchange. ये तो gold standard में तो कुछ तो gold था. Even fixed and floating is also very bad. America has destroyed this world with
let's know about crypto.
So these are de-dollarization and crypto is totally related. And what he has spoken is both the things. So 5 minutes में 5-6 सवाल ही पूछने हैं.
No, 1 second. You answer on your question because he has to close at the 6 o'clock.
मुझे really.
I think even I have to leave.
You can answer about.
Let's close it. Let's close it.
I would like to thank all the panelists and the participants and council members. And in brief vote of thanks, I will terminate this session for today. Thank you. Thank you.
नहीं सेकंड
So I want to look at Manish, all three of them. All three of March 2023, we entered at 1,000 crore target. We entered at 1,030 crores. March of 24, the target is 2,500. So we have to grow 1.5x in the area. So disbursal run now the supply chain vertical we have to target and part of the non-supply chain vertical.
So you go directly.
So term loan, simple term loan.
I think so you give it through a Flipkart and Amazon.
Exactly. So the advantage there is कल को कुछ डिफॉल्ट हुआ या So Manish knows you, can I?
Yeah, sure.
You can give reference.
One is those, so he had come once in a SLP.
Okay.
So he's a SLPN. I don't know whether you know SLP. SLPN is a platform, a non-profit. This one where the leadership is not something. They have come in Bandra. So you can explain, huh? That's how.
घेवडा पडला गपकी अरे त्याच्या आता दे हे खालच्या आणलेले सर्व
Do you run your own office?
So I have my own boutique and I'm advising on the BFSI sector client. Okay, so they want to go into fintech. So I was just wanted to understand क्या होता है. I advise from the. Okay, you have alliance.
Yeah. So I look after alliance. So I
last time I said, but they come out very well. He at that time told.